Bill, how are you, sir?
Bill,
how you guys doing?
You didn't
still
just hear
working.
that. You didn't just hear that last 2 minutes, did you?
No, it didn't piss me off. Don't worry.
Oh, good. Well, let's get right to it then.
Speaking of being pissed off,
you seem to be all over the place. Larry David, of course, did an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where he takes some kind of drug because he's having urinary problems, and when he urinates at an employee's house, a picture of Jesus is up on the wall, and some of his urine gets up by the picture of Jesus' eye, and the people in the house go in the bathroom afterwards, after Larry leaves, and say, oh, my God, it's a miracle, because they think the picture is crying, and they want to take this on tour. Now, obviously, Bill, you have a problem with this. Basically, what is your take on it, and why the problem?
Well, you know, most of the stuff that seems to cross my desk lately is always gratuitous. It comes out of nowhere. It's not even integral or functional to the show. So you wonder, what is it about the writers that they feel a need to? Let's see now. What can we do? How can we tick off Catholics? Obviously, nobody would piss on Obama because then you'd be a racist and you'd be obscene, and we know all about that.
Ain't been to my house.
Yeah, I mean, these, or as I say, you know, listen, we can put some feces on a picture of the mother of Larry David, and then just see how much he wants to laugh about it.
You know what, though? I watched the episode last night. Just to prep for this, Bill, you know, I do prep for you. And what I saw was something that was kind of, if you have a knowledge of Curb Your Enthusiasm, it was integral to the story because it is outrageous, and he does put himself in these odd, very awkward situations. I don't think it was gratuitous. I don't think it was prolonged. It was something that had happened. And it wasn't as if he was doing it to desecrate Jesus on purpose, or the image of Jesus. It was part of the story, as we've seen in the news many times. People proclaiming they see miracles happening with Jesus crying or Mary bleeding. Why would you take this as being any more than that?
It's a cheap shot, and it's always Jesus, or it's always a Catholic priest or a nun. It's never anybody else's religion. You don't
think so?
This way in imams. You know, it's the same old nonsense. I mean, and if it's not with them, I just put out a statement just now. You know, we look at these Halloween costumes. Okay, some immigrant groups are complaining because they have an illegal aliens out there. We know when there was a Danish cartoon of Muhammad, people led to violence in the street. Now, there are costumes of nuns and priests out there which are fine. There's costumes of Jesus, which I think are funny, as well as imams and ministers and rabbis. But there's only one costume where it shows one clergyman with an erection, and the other one is a pregnant person. I'm talking about a Catholic priest and a pregnant nun. Now, it's not being carried in Walmart and Target.
Right. I've seen that over the years. When I was a kid, I used to see people do that.
Bill Donohue. Sir, Bill Donohue, sir.
Oh, this is Patrice O'Neal.
Do you think God needs your help in these matters?
No, I don't.
So why don't you just stop? Like, that's all I'm saying. Why don't you just stop being the representative for God? I heard you say I about 3 times. Here's my problem. I always have to make things racial. How come the upsetness is not the fact that Jesus always looks like Charles Manson instead of what he really is, somebody from the Middle East?
No, he wasn't. He was the son of God, and God, we all know, is a white man.
Why doesn't that offend you? Why is the fact that he looks like a session drummer?
I think, you know what I think? I think we need more Amos and Andy and Little Black Sambo.
Yeah, we do. This is what he wants, because everything is really it's like snitching. It's like, why don't I? How come we can't do? You can if you want, but you don't make fun of anything. So you want people to not make fun, to have fun, make fun. What about the Joker face that everybody wants?
We could make a. She got to
do your thing. Do your thing, Bill. Let's hear a good Michelle joke. Let's go, baby. I'll laugh if it's funny.
Her ass is a little big.
Go ahead.
You get my point.
No, I don't get your point. No.
Sure you do.
You just. I don't care.
Yeah.
How about I don't care?
You would.
Really? No, you don't know me. That's what I'm saying. I'm not you.
Wait. What do you got on Al Sharpton?
Al Sharpton would be the first one to go for your head, of course, if anything like this happened. We saw what happened with Isaac on that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that one more time we got this duplicitous, hypocritical people out there who say, oh, no, leave off the gays. Oh, I could have some fun with some gay costumes. Let me tell you about that. But they ain't going to go there, are they?
You're just
over and over and over again.
But you're not giving me any reason. It's like
any reason.
It's like no, wait a minute. It's like sometimes it's like you ever have a woman and she says something's not funny or something you think is not funny, right? And then you go, okay, well, make it funny for me. Can you please tell me, say something that makes me go, you know what funny is.
Well, did you think what Larry David did was funny?
It could have been. He should have been able to do it.
Could have been. Was it funny?
Did he? I don't think Patrice actually saw it,
the tear I did. I saw the clip. And the two women that got on their knees and thought he was really crying,
he did see
he was making fun of those goofs as opposed to pee on Jesus.
Yeah, it wasn't a desecrating
You're being
Jesus
literal.
thing.
He's just making fun of the Catholic woman. Is that what it is?
No, it was making fun of...
they're hilarious.
You don't think people are a little crazy?
You don't even see it, do you? You can't even connect the dots. You're so clear.
You're not connecting the dots.
No, I do.
You're being self... I don't even want to say righteous, but you're just... Dude, stop.
I think Larry David was making fun of the fact that people find like the image of Jesus or the Virgin Mary and like in English muffin, and then next thing you know they're traveling around the country showing everybody, and people blindly believe that something actually happened there.
And that's not Jesus. Again, that's a white guy. It's a white guy with long, delicious hair.
Let him speak. Yes, Bill.
Look, you've got fringe people in every demographic group in society, and the question is, why is it not legitimate fair then to pick on that fringe group within other different groups?
Larry David makes many Jewish jokes about himself on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Nothing vulgar, nothing obscene. I mean,
no, but it's very stereotypical Jewish.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, if as I just gave you an example, I don't care even about costumes of Jesus and priests and nuns, as long as they're just making some light fun of them, as they do others. But when you have the kinds of vulgar stuff that I described, and it's only my group, my clergy, my religious, then you have to begin to wonder, why do we have this pattern over and over again?
Can you tell me which verse?
He is a crusader.
Can you tell me which?
It's victimized. You're victimizing. Again, you're victimizing Catholicism. You're victimizing because you're like, it's the reason why I can't listen. It's the reason why I can't say nigga no more. White people have figured out a way to get black people not to say nigga no more by saying the N-word. Because if you can't have fun, nobody can. So you think Christianity's under attack, but it ain't. It's a Jesus joke. And you still didn't answer me. Bill, you still didn't answer me about this white Jesus. You still didn't answer it.
What about white Jesus? I don't care about
What if I'm offended that Jesus is always white when he's from the Middle East?
Well, I mean, that's not vulgar. That's a matter of interpretation.
Why aren't you upset about that?
The Catholic League, we don't.
Okay.
There have been pictures of Jesus.
If you're upset about if you're upset about a figurative act of defamation against fake Jesus, but it's a fake Jesus.
A picture of your mother, you're not going to get upset.
It's a fake portrayal of Jesus.
I don't believe you for a moment.
You don't believe yourself. You're just trying to stop people from having fun. Stop. Leave people alone that like to have fun.
More people agree with me than they agree with you.
Yes, why don't you just go into rooms with them and leave people who are funny alone?
Tell your friend Al Sharpton and his buddies at the
There you go, my friend.
Because he's black, he's his friend.
There you go, Bill. We know what you really are. You're going to slip up if you keep talking,
black people know each other.
I agree with Bill on this one.
You're going to slip up, and the real R word's going to come out. The R word.
What's the R word?
I'm not saying it.
Oh, you know what it is?
I don't know what it is.
What's the R word?
It's the R word.
If you use the N word, you're an R.
Not exactly, but you know what the N word is.
You're an R if you use the N word.
Yeah, you're an R if you use the N.
I have no idea what the R word is.
Of course you don't.
Hey, Bill, if you get mad enough, you could call him, what you want to call him.
Go ahead, say it, Bill. It's in your heart. Let it go. Don't let it fester, Bill. Get it out. You've already been saying it in this condescending manner. What if I put Amos and Andy, huh, Mr. Negro? How about your friend Al Sharpton? How about your friend White Jesus?
Let him talk.
I'm just showing what a phony you are.
No, you're not.
Oh, shit.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not
Little
fun.
Black Sambo with his
You're
erection.
not fun.
Little Black Sambo.
We getting ready. Hey, what do you?
Welfare score.
There you go. That's what Bill really is.
There you go.
That's what he really is.
Damn. Right?
That's what you really are.
Yeah, I know.
You see the anger? He came on very diplomatic. Very diplomatic.
Argument. You try to justify bigotry against one group, but then you get upset when
No, I don't.
When it comes back.
No,
in
I
your
didn't.
face.
No,
You're
I didn't.
Yeah, you
No, I
kind of
didn't.
did. You kind of did.
Say what?
You kind of did.
What did I
You kind of
do?
did.
What did I
You
do?
kind of did.
Just tell me what I did.
You kind of did.
Tell me what I did.
I just
You
fucking
want-
with you.
No. I'm asking Bill.
to Bill?
Bill,
All right,
what did
Bill.
I do, Bill? What did I get mad about?
My point is simply this: everybody has a hot button, whether it be Jesus or Muhammad or a black minister, whoever it might be.
Or funniness.
All you
Go
got to
ahead.
do is find that button and you press it, and you get the same reaction.
Yeah,
All
the
I'm
button
saying
I'm
is
pushing
that
with you.
There's a tendency in our culture to push the buttons of Catholics more than any other group. That's
Okay,
all
when did this
I'm
start?
saying.
Has this been historic or has this started yesterday?
Leviticus. It
This has
started
been around
Leviticus.
for a while, fellas. Let me
You know
tell
when it started? It started when people started paying attention to people like you, Bill. When we started going, uh-oh, Bill said something, so we got to be scared of it. Bill,
didn't say to be
just stay
scared.
out of fun business. You know what Xbox 360 is, Bill?
Stick to stoning women that are unholy. Let's go back to the rules on when it's okay to enslave people or when it's okay to turn your daughter out as a whore. Let's go Old Testament right now. If you want to talk about
And
offensive,
this is a white guy talking now, by the way.
I'm not
Bill.
black at all.
He looks like Jesus,
I'm
actually.
from Oklahoma.
Yeah, actually, he does
Lazlow looks like Jesus,
Larry
Bill
has
Donohue.
this shitty shirt that proves he's white.
I bought this in Oklahoma.
It's all
At
Western.
Teeners.
And Bill,
Western Outfitters.
Wait. And just so Bill knows, Lazlow will be going to hell with what he does with his life.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so there's a guarantee there. Stuff.
I'm with you, sir. I don't
What
like
is
Patrice.
HBO saying about what you're saying, Bill?
Same
You
thing.
get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, you think you're going to get an apology or any reaction to this by HBO or Larry David?
No.
Listen, Bill Maher has been defending Catholics for years. There's something pathological about that man. He's totally irrational.
Yeah, I don't
and
like
if
Bill Maher.
HBO puts up with him, then I just joked on TV here about 2 years ago that I'd like to meet up with him in Madison Square Garden, put the Everlast on, and I beat the hell out of that punk. He goes on Larry King in a serious vein and says, Bill Donohue of the Catholic League threatened me with violence. What up?
Yeah, because you know what he did? You know what he did, though, Bill?
You gotta like Bill Donohue
He
for that.
took you
Come on.
literally.
Oh, he took you
He
literally.
took you literal, Bill.
all
But
right,
when
well,
you
good
was
point,
joking,
Patrice.
you were joking around figuratively. He should have known it, shouldn't he have, Bill? He should have known you were joking, Mr. Serious.
Lordy, lordy.
Oh my
Lordy,
goodness!
lordy.
You're threatening his life there.
Lordy.
Jesus Christ, there. He had to figure. He had to know you were joking, didn't he,
Imus
Bill?
was joking, too, and look what happened to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you got
we weren't happy
railroaded.
about that one, Bill.
All right? Yeah,
we
so
weren't
you
happy
can't even
about
go
that
there.
one.
Hey,
Your
we were
argument
joking.
collapses.
Yeah, but
We were joking.
Bill, you
only
don't
joking.
know me, but do you know I was the first one to defend him?
Who?
Bill Don Imus.
Yeah, Patrice fucked up his
Patrice
TV career because he went on and defended Imus, and he hasn't been back since.
I defended Imus.
And he was great. He was great on TV. He did a lot of
is right,
TV
Bill.
before that.
Right is right, and what you're doing is wrong.
I didn't
Because it's
ask anybody to be
selfish.
fired.
It's selfish.
Huh?
Al Sharpton went for the jugular. And even after the man apologized, he still wanted to get him fired. I didn't ask for anything like
Then
that.
what's your end game as far as this Larry David thing goes? What would you like to see happen?
Look, I've never asked for the government to come in and resolve these problems for me. All I'm simply saying is this. I run an anti-defamation organization, and just like you have the ADL and NAACP and GLAAD and NOW and all these other different groups, when you see something that you think crosses the line, you're expected to draw public opinion to try and persuade them to your side. Some
All
people
not
agree,
funny
some
groups,
people
by the
don't
way.
agree.
None of them are funny.
That's true.
Like, why don't you stay and listen? This is the deal I make. Why don't you just stay in the realm where if somebody goes seriously, I will piss on Jesus's face. Stick to those people who seriously want to do that.
We had that
Wait a minute.
We had that last year when a professor from the University of Minnesota intentionally took a consecrated host and drove a rusty nail through it to say, listen, I don't give a damn about the body and blood of Jesus Christ. I'm an atheist. His name is P.Z. Myers. There's a lot of animals.
Now,
out there
can you
like that.
agree? Can you agree that Larry David was trying to be funny?
Yeah, look, I don't think that because somebody offends me, therefore he's necessarily a bigot. We all tell jokes that could offend somebody. What I know a bigot is when he does it over and over and over again. I do say there's a problem at HBO. This is the first time, to be fair to you. Okay, Patrice. Larry David, do we see that he's a recidivist, a repeat offender? No, he's not Joy Behar, some pathological bitch who constantly is going after the Catholic Church. Larry David is not that way.
Wow, I don't like her either.
You gotta love Bill's opinions.
Lord, I'm glad this is not like 1806, because he'd be riding down here on his cart. Boy, would I have no thumbs and a lot of tar and feathers on me.
How bad do you want to drink with Bill Donohue to find out what really goes on in that head?
Stop. I'd like to catch him doing
this is
something.
Him under control.
This is just too much of a zealot, man. Stop that nonsense.
Look, I mean, Larry David has obviously moved on. He doesn't care that much. He's going to move on to the next target. He's made fun of cripples and everything else on the damn show.
The real problem there is HBO, because Sarah Silverman went after Catholics 2 weeks earlier, and whose show did she do it on? Bill Maher's show. And where's that shown on? HBO. So there is a problem over there at HBO.
Bill, let's just say it together. It's the Jews. It's always the Jews.
Let me address that very.
It's like Ali Frazier. It's like Ali Frazier.
If you look at anti-Catholicism in this country from the time of the founding up through, I'd say, roughly through the mid-20th century, anti-Catholicism basically came from one group, Protestants. I would say over the last 50 years it comes from two groups. Catholics who are alienated, one foot out the door, and left-wing secular Jews. Very little of it comes from Protestants. It's been a big change in the landscape.
Well, I still have home blasphemy.
Like this, office meetings.
I like that one, home blasphemy office.
Right. We got a lot of religion and a lot of racism thing happening right now. What if Larry David did the same joke, but it was, I don't know, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King,
right.
And then his P got on like a portrait of
How about
MLK.
Obama?
All right, Obama. Let's go to the. All right,
it wouldn't be Bill. See, Bill's
it wouldn't be Bill. It would be Reverend Al.
Right, and that's what I was saying. It's this is where it gets messed up, Bill. You're a man. See, people historically who are for humanity, who are just for humanity, get killed in some kind of way. Jesus was for completely the opposite of what you stand for. He was for everybody being together. He didn't start a religion. He was starting like a movement of love. But
so
wait a minute.
Money?
No, what I'm saying is, Al Sharpton his job is to get offended with Malcolm X. Your job is to get offended with Jesus. Somebody else's job is to get offended with Muhammad. But the idea is there's no humanity there. It's still secular. It's still xenophobic. It's terrible behavior. We're not human anymore. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're not angry at other things. You're not angry at cruelty to animals. You're not angry at genocide in Africa. Because, are you, Bill?
Cruelty to animals? I think this case before the Supreme Court I would come down on the side of saying that that's not protected speech under the First Amendment. When Madison talked about freedom of speech, there's a case that the Supreme Court has agreed to hear. They won't render a judgment till the spring. I don't think intentionally being cruel to animals should be freedom of speech.
Yeah, it's usually freedom of religion if you choke a chicken and then you do something like that. There's cruelty.
There's not enough. Everything that's wrong should be mentioned by anybody on any group. If it's just wrong.
Larry David has free speech. I have free speech. I didn't ask for anybody to get fired. I don't understand what the big stink is about.
You are a defender of the faith. So when he sees something he doesn't like,
gatekeeper of the faith.
He speaks out. And makes people aware that him and his constituency are not happy with what went on. When it's taken over the line and people lose their jobs over it and things like that, then I have a problem with it. This guy can say whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, fair enough. But I would love these people. And when I say these people, I mean everybody who's an advocate.
Oh.
Please, could you just be fun for 5 seconds?
Listen,
do something frivolous.
Nothing fun about damnation.
Wait. He's got a sense of humor. Bill, what do you find funny? What do you find funny, Bill?
Who's your favorite comic?
Who's my favorite comic? I'll tell you what. For years I've liked Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, I think he's. And I have to say, Larry David's a brilliant guy because he created that show. Yeah. And I guess that was part of the thing that made us wince. To say, why would a guy that smart have to stoop this low? That's really.
Well, it's kind of cutting edge in a way. It really is because it wasn't. it wasn't perpetuated through the whole thing. It wasn't done with malice and stuff. It was part of the story.
That wheelchair episode was hilarious.
And it's like as if you guys are saying that I'm painting him as if he's a Klansman or something. All I did was say, I put out a statement called urinating on Jesus, and I described what happened, and I didn't like it.
All right. I could deal with that. I'd like to actually have a few beers with Bill and let him start getting into that Sambo
keep
thing.
Up with me.
I know. Let me tell you.
Oh, wow, that's a challenge right there, Ant. Bill Donohue said you can't keep up with
I have 2 kegs in my house.
Do you have 2 kegs in your house, Bill, on tap constantly?
I have loads of kegs in my house. I live up to the stereotype of being Irish.
Damn, I'd like to do that, and I want to hear these little Sambo stories and everything. After a few beers, it's all just
right into
There's
all
no
those
coffee
jokes.
allowed in my house, just beer.
Sounded like a race joke.
Alcohol.
He's got those little black guys with the lanterns out front.
I do.
He's laughing at that.
I got one out by
he
my
likes
pool.
that.
Dude, because we can hear it.
Guys,
and he can't have fun.
Bill, hold on. Bill's got to go. He's very busy today.
I got another radio show I got to do. But hey, Patrice, you're a fun guy. Maybe sometime we'll go out together and we'll get loaded.
No.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Take it easy.
No. Hey, that was a great discussion.
Now, that was
I like
good.
That.
God damn.
I like that a lot.
Patrice just said, because I'm just going off about the situation. Patrice just goes into the mic and saying, all right, here he goes.
This shit, it's so corny.
I know.
It exists,
I heard you
but it's
loud
just
and clear.
So fucking, people are they're always interfering with people. Let funny people have a police.
Yeah.
And go,
funny police.
And if you challenge, what's his name? Larry David, you go, Larry, is it any other way you could have made that joke funny? Let's say you thought of that joke. Is there any way you could have made it funnier without pee? So you go, well, water.
I could have been washing my face and splash.
A mistake pee splash on a Jesus.
No, you expect it to be pee with Larry David if you know Curb Your Enthusiasm.
The idea is like, holy shit, I fucked up. Like, it's the awkwardness of...
Yes.
And he acknowledged in the show he fucked up. He wasn't like purposely going, look what I'm going to do, this fucking Jesus portrait
It's
thing.
not like, it was
it's
not
an
like the artist that goes
so he kept
out
it a little safe.
and pisses on... a crucifix and then rubs crap on it and says, this is my art.
Right.
It's different than that.
Hold on, I got to jump in for a second because, Patrice, it's an ongoing theme with our show. The big problem is the people that listen to Bill Donohue, Reverend Al Sharpton, and the rest of them. That's the real problem. I don't give a shit that these guys are protecting something that they believe in. I don't care.
Yeah, fuck it.
But all of a sudden, then people rally around someone like Bill Donohue or Reverend Al and get people fired. That's
cited.
Those are the people I have a real problem with.
Yeah, people that are looking to get offended.
And they fight. They fight, but look at what's happening though. It just goes into something like yesterday. I bought a couple of video games, and they want your ID now, like your ID to buy adult video games.
Are you
dude? Yeah,
me?
and they boop, and it's a world of this kind of martial status. This law is overwhelming. Where this guy Bill Donohue said I. In his riff, at least 3 times. Sure. I. It gives you this godly. Listen, I always knew bullies. Look, look. Let's be honest. Early in my comedy life, man, you can make fun of Asians all day long, and Indians. As soon as an Asian got a little power, got somebody fired. Now you think they go, okay, we're going to be a fair and just fair people. And go after things that are frivolous.
Yeah, good rock.
Exactly.
Take that,
so it's like
face.
you can't be fucking made fun of. And it's just shocking. Look, can you make fun of black people? Of fucking course. If I love making fun of white people, why the fuck would I say you can't make fun of black people?
I know.
Or Asians or anything.
Yep.
And it's that it gives him this power. He's on a fucking radio tour. Gotta go, everyone.
Yeah,
I got another radio
so now
show.
he's just watching for someone to fuck up.
Look. Because we gave him power.
You know,
we, the media, the fucking people gave guys like Bill Donohue and Reverend Al Sharpton fucking power. Let me tell you something. Bill Donohue got us fired for the Sex for Sam thing. because he went on TV yelling and screaming about what we did, and then the people listened. The fucking people, the fucking company, the fucking suits, they listened to Bill Donohue instead of telling them, go fuck yourself.
Well,
these guys made an honest mistake that day.
Or that wasn't funny. Like,
same thing with fucking Imus with the Reverend Al thing. People listened to fucking what Reverend Al was spewing. Reverend Al technically didn't get Imus fired. It was the people that were listening to him.
Imagine if people, if Funny had a police, and the Sex with Sam happened, and just the Funny police said, they leaned into the TV and looked at Opie, Anthony, that just wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Wasn't funny, and we all agree. A lot of people just took a vote. It just wasn't funny. And then you go,
which, by the way,
try better. And you slide away, but I'm saying,
which, by the way, I agree with. It was a shocking little bit that fucking blew up in our face.
I'm not saying it wasn't funny, but let's say you tried, and we know you tried, didn't work out. As opposed to destroy life.
Get you out of here, you're fired, right.
What? Stay out of funny business.
You know what amazes me is that Bill Donohue, the way he was talking about like Reverend Al Sharpton, they are exactly the same.
They really
They're
are.
The same
They're
people.
exactly the same person.
Absolutely.
Negative.
If you peed on a picture of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or black religious figure, say Jesus,
motherfucker.
He wouldn't hear from him because Al Sharpton is in charge of black people's problems.
Yeah.
But that's where it goes away. It's like and Al Sharpton should be on board with Bill Donohue. Mm-hmm. This is how you know it's racial, because Al Sharpton is fucking up. He's a Baptist, which is Christian. He's a Christian.
You'll never have
Jesus
to tell
should
me.
be his fucking problem.
You'll never have to tell me that it's racial with Reverend Al.
But I'm saying this is where it's all horse shit, because he's in charge of white things happening to Jesus, and Al's in charge of black things happening to Jesus. But what the fuck?
How many beers before the nigger jokes come out with fucking
shit.
Bill?
Bill Donohue.
How many beers? 2, 3?
Nah, he's got a tolerance.
How many?
So he'll hold out a little bit longer than that.
You see, it was coming out, and I don't think
he was laughing.
Dude,
if
we had 10 more minutes,
that's why he had to get off.
That word would have popped.
He had to get off. He's like, I'm ready. Oh my God,
I think he knew he was ready.
That's why
because we were told
pull a Kramer.
We were told we had him until 10:15, so I think he was losing control.
Yeah, because he was getting ready. He said Sambo a couple of times.
Patrice,
what if somebody shit on your black mama?
Yeah. He started on your mama,
and you know I'm from Boston, man. That is fucking phase 1 of white boy shit.
Yeah, phase 2 is watermelon and chitlin.
Exactly.
That's phase 2.
What if I do something to you, niglet? It's to get.
Right.
I'm way past that shit, motherfucker. You can't. That he was on that. I could feel him, and he would have got to that point.
People get mad at us because we like this guy now. Like a lot of the fans get angry. Is he on?
No, I'm still holding a grudge.
I'm not at all.
I think you're all right with him. I think
100%
Ed's
all right
sort
with
of
him.
okay with him.
Yeah.
I hold a motherfucking grudge.
Yeah,
Keith
you
can
should.
understand that, right?
I feel you, man.
Yeah, I
You
wanted
being real. What you real
wandered
with?
the earth for 2.5 years because I believe because he really, pumped up our situation.
My grudge is against the old management there who knew the deal for real and reacted in a way instead of saying, no, this is what it is.
All
And
right,
they
here he
didn't
is.
stick with us. Hey, Bill?
Hello,
How you
Bill.
doing?
How are you?
How's everything going, guys?
Well, we got the head guy here at Sirius today. First
Archbishop
of all,
Dolan.
is he the Archbishop? Is he the Cardinal? We're trying to figure this stuff out.
He's the Archbishop. He's not a cardinal yet. That'll probably take place, I don't know, maybe a year or less than a year.
What's the difference? What makes him a
Well,
Cardinal
because
down the road?
See, you have bishops in certain cities, and if it's a big city and a big state, you have an archbishop. But there's only about 10 cardinals in the country. That's like the higher rung, so to speak. So, an archbishop is you could be an archbishop of Denver, like Archbishop Chaput, but he's not a cardinal. The Cardinals that's like the top rung. So New York being New York, obviously at some point he will be a Cardinal. Sometime within probably a year.
Bill, can we talk in like sports terms? Is he still in the minor leagues? Is he like a AAA player, or is he now in the majors?
Sounds like he's
No,
majors.
let me tell you something. I met him twice yesterday. I'd spoken to him before. I worked with him in 2007. in the fall of 2007 when I took on the Miller Brewing Company. I hate to go after any kind of an alcohol company because I'm very pro-alcohol, but I did go after the Miller Brewing Company because of a vile anti-Catholic gay event. You know, guys having sex in the street, that's the kind of stuff these guys do at these events. And they also took crucifixes and used them as sex symbols. Had a stripper and a guy dressed as Jesus hoisted by a crane in a cage above a Catholic church, guys dressed as nuns, you know, that kind of stuff. So I said to Miller, I want an apology for 4 specific anti-Catholic incidents, and I got 1. I said, no, I need 3 more. Suffice it to say that in 6 weeks, after a boycott and Chaldean Catholics in Michigan throwing the beer into the streets, and I sent pictures of all these guys performing oral sex on each other all over Milwaukee, the pride of Miller, to churches and mosques and synagogues and civic groups. And finally they got the message, and Dolan was fantastic. He told the Miller boys, Donnie is not going to give up. I'm on his side. This is outrageous what you're doing. You got to stop this sponsorship. And so we won. So when I met him on the steps of St. Pat's yesterday and then over at the reception, I was very happy to be with him, and I'm happy that the Daily News will run a column by me tomorrow talking about this guy. I mean, he's not from New York, but you would never know it. He strikes me as if he's been in New York his whole life.
Well, this is Keith Robinson. Are you like the Al Sharpton of the Catholic Church?
No, I actually pay my taxes.
Now, Bill, we saw him. He's being interviewed today down the hall. We can kind of hear some of his interview. They're putting it out over the speaker, and he seems like a very bright guy. You know, what are the odds of us getting him in here in studio and having a chat if we were nice?
I don't know. I'm going to be meeting with him, and he told me yesterday that's going to happen pretty soon, and I'm going to work closely with him. I think he's a great guy. I can mention it to him. I think that you guys would be respectful.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing, he's tough-skinned, and I don't think he's afraid of the media. And I think you're going to see him be more vocal, more out of the mold of O'Connor. So I wouldn't rule it out.
Well, that's all good. Does he have a sense of humor, though?
He has a great sense of humor. I mean, I know you guys are a little edgy, which doesn't bother me. I don't think it would bother him per se, but, you know, somebody over there where he's at the headquarters might say, well, you know, Opie and Anthony, shock jocks and whatnot. So I can at least, you know, drop it in his ear.
We're not going to do edgy humor. I'll put this out there. We're not going to do edgy humor with the Archbishop. I like working here. There's no way to do edgy humor with the Archbishop. But I would have some questions I would like to. Because
That's Bill. Bill knows all this stuff.
Yeah, you can beat me up.
No, not even nasty. Because Keith's brother, a comedian friend here, his brother's a bishop in Philadelphia.
And also does Tai Chi.
Yes, he does Tai Chi. He's apparently not a very good driver.
Which is really smart if you're in a car accident.
But we were saying, like,
Jesus.
We were talking about the Catholic Church. Like,
I said Jesus to Bill Donohue.
That's right.
I feel
he
bad.
says it a lot. I would like to ask the Archbishop about the Catholic Church. Like, where's the line you keep between, all right, remaining true to your principles and your values and all the things that you kind of think are right, and bending a little bit or changing a little bit to stay relevant. Do you know what I mean? Without considering yourself selling out. Like, it's like something with like gay marriage or homosexuals.
But the problem,
I think that. You know, the idea of being relevant is really of little interest to the Catholic Church. After all, if it's survived 2,000 years, and as one assistant to a cardinal told Napoleon, he said, if you think you're going to destroy us, you'll never do it. After all, look at all the popes and cardinals and priests that we've had who have been incompetent over the last 2,000 years.
But Bill, one thing
if they haven't destroyed it, you're not.
I got to say, to just interrupt you for 1 second, and then I'll let you get. The passing of information now is so much different, and you have to admit, in the last 50 years, the church has taken some tremendous hits, which I mean, probably more damaging things that like became public knowledge and became apparent to a lot of people that had happened in hundreds of years combined before.
Well, listen, there's no question about it. The scandal rocked the church. It was a disgrace the way it was handled by some of these bishops, and certainly some of the monster priests that we've had. But fortunately, there's just a few of those kind of priests that we've had in the past. Most of that damage was done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But look, the thing as far as gay marriage, there's no way in the world the Catholic Church is going to say Tom and Dick can get married, because then Harry wants to get in you know, make it a trio, and they're not going to do that. Okay, they're not going to bend on gay marriage.
Because, Bill, this is Joe DeRosa.
Who?
Exactly.
What were you expecting
Yes.
something?
Friends with, no, I just was. Keith did it, so I did it too. And I was
Bill, some people confuse him for being George Carlin. So
Yes.
just to bring it all together.
See how this
For
goes?
real.
Everybody turns on you all at once.
Yeah, Joe's a comedian friend of ours.
What I don't understand. You think the Catholic Church will never approve gay marriage because you think it means that a third man will? Is that what you just
They
said?
consider it deviant.
I'm sorry.
Listen, let me
That's
tell
Bill
you something.
Donohue and his sense of humor, Joe.
No, I was just
Got a little
asking.
sense of
I
humor.
didn't understand. I was just asking.
Let me put it to you very clearly. Here's the way it works. Okay, you can't. The whole purpose of marriage is not about the man. It's not about the woman. It's about when they procreate, which means vaginal intercourse. That's the only way it works, folks.
Nice,
Nature
right?
says the man and the woman have a nice goodness of fit, okay, to use a statistical term. And then when it works, then you have children. Children need a stable environment. They don't need two fathers. I mean, after all, we have Mother's Day coming up, so what do you say to the little kid? And when you believe in the politics of inclusion, now you've excluded the kid on Mother's Day, and then in June you'll exclude him from Father's Day if he has two mothers. No, the way it works is you have to have a father and a mother, and they typically will have children. And we're not going to change on that just because our country has gone delirious. When I was a kid, if somebody said two men should get married, somebody might have want to call 911, get the asylum ready, get out the straitjackets, because these people have flipped.
But Bill,
now we have a governor and a mayor who are just as nuts as the people used to be in the asylum.
But Bill, don't forget, just because, like, in fairness, when you look back at it, like sometimes the older times, like if you say when you were a kid, just because that's the way it was doesn't mean that it wasn't incorrect. Because when you were a kid, also, blacks and whites drank at different water fountains. It's like sometimes things have to kind of change. And when you talk about
nature doesn't change.
No, nature doesn't. But sometimes our interpretation of what's proper in nature could change.
Right.
Like when you talk about a kid, I agree with you on one thing. Like when it came to gay adoption, I was like, well, I don't know. Is it going to damage the kid at all to have two dads or two moms?
Yes.
Will it? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think there's been enough case history to show yes or no.
It will.
But how about families where there's alcoholism? I mean, there's so many dysfunctional and bad regular mother-father situations.
Let me tell you where the damage look, when you grow up as a kid, any kid hasn't grown up with his father wants to know where his father is. So if you have a situation where a woman can't teach a man how to be a man can teach a man how to be a man. So in that case, like you got two women raising a boy, they're never going to be able to give that kid the instruction that he should have.
Have you seen lesbians? One of them would take that role. Believe me, lesbians.
you can't take
that. One has a mullet.
I have.
You can't take that role.
Listen, my little cousin.
A woman cannot be a father figure.
Hold on.
That's true.
My little
Joe, go ahead.
My little cousin was just born. Her parents had drug issues. Okay, the custody of the child was taken away upon birth from the parents because they were incapable and are still, quite frankly, incapable of raising this child. She went to a lesbian couple. They're doing a tremendous job with her. They love her. They're thrilled. It's brought meaning to their life. And to insinuate in any way that this kid would have been better off with two drug-addicted parents that were not capable of raising a kid versus two women that actually love her and are capable of raising her it's crazy.
Yeah, but you don't make social policy based on the exception. And by the way, it wasn't just in the 1950s that we had marriage between a man and woman. It's been that way for thousands of years. The only people who think it's good for gay people to get married are white people who are well educated in the United States, in Europe, and in Canada. Don't try that talk in the Middle East. Don't try it in Africa.
Yeah, well, they're very reasonable over there.
Don't try it in Asia because they know better. And I'm on the side of the non-whites. They're a lot smarter than the white people when it comes to marriage.
Well, don't forget, though, over there, though, Bill, culturally, there's so many other different things. I mean, they happen to agree with you on this one issue, but when you look at their treatment of women, come on, they're removing clitorises in a lot of these places. They're not good examples of socially, relevant people.
And I'm not going to go along with that kind of savagery, obviously, but I'm just any kind of female mutilation. Yeah. I'm not even big on tattoos.
Well, we had a marriage story yesterday. What? It was an 8-year-old.
Yeah, like in Saudi Arabia,
some 50-something-year-old.
The court has said they will not, they will not stop the marriage of the older man to the 8-year-old, as long as he basically promises not to have sex with her until she's pubescent. It's like, I mean, so if you're going to raise the Middle East as kind of a barometer of morality or of proper living, you have to take other stuff into consideration too.
Most of the world, I didn't just choose the Middle East. I'm not going to.
Let's not forget. Let's not forget about the rape demonstration yesterday too, where the women were like protesting they don't want to be raped anymore, and then the guys were there throwing rocks at them.
Yeah, it's awful.
Wait a minute, that's not that bad.
In all fairness, Bill, you did also mention communist China, where they take your babies away from you. And
wait. Throughout most of history, the idea of two men getting married has been positively an insane idea up until somebody rolled out of bed here about 20 years ago, and I'm not sure what side of the bed and with whom, and decided this would be a good idea. And most Americans don't want it. As a matter of fact, even in New York State, the Quinnipiac poll showed that only 41% of New Yorkers wanted it. Not even a majority of the Democrats want it. So why is Patterson trying to force feed and shove it down our throat, this idea that we have to have gay marriage? We have a mayor who's out of touch as well. They do not represent New York. And in 30 states where this has been on the ballot, the scorecard, folks, is 30-0.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I think it matters, Bill, because I think in our country, the minority voice has to be protected to a certain extent. Like,
they shouldn't have to win. They can have their free speech.
I don't think it affects the rest of society. Like, I think that if people want to do that and live, I think it is their business. And I think it's so weird. Like, I want less government, and it's amazing. The conservatives typically are less government people, but they want more government when it comes to how people live their lives sexually. And it's amazing how it's not. They're live and let live with most things, but when it comes to that, they want a little bit of government intrusion. And if people want to get married, I mean, it's basically, it should be their right because...
But you're acting like as if we don't even have a society, that we don't have a moral consensus, that we all go about willy-nilly making up our own minds. You guys couldn't get to work this morning unless people agreed on what a red light means. I mean, we have to have a consensus. You don't have to have unanimity, but you have to have a consensus. You just can't go around there and saying, well, different strokes for different folks. We have a 13th Amendment which forbids me from owning somebody as a slave.
Yes, but
it's not just up to you what you want to do in every case.
Not in every case, but I think when it doesn't affect other people.
But there you go.
I don't think that does.
When it goes to the children,
I just gave you an example. What are you going to tell the kid on Mother's Day next month when he has two fathers?
Well, Bill, like you said, you can't set policy because of the exception. You said that, and because of an American holiday, Father's Day and Mother's Day, twice a year, you can't dictate the
guys.
It's not just that.
They banned Mother's Day and Father's Day and some of these hippie.
Well, I don't agree with that either. You're right. I don't agree with that either.
Of course not. You can't make fathers irrelevant. You can't make mothers irrelevant.
Of course not.
No, that's what when you argue the point, that's what you do. You got to understand the importance of a father and a mother, and you can't lower that for your own gain.
You have a point. You have a point here.
Side.
You have a point with some of the stuff here. When I was a kid, Mother's Day was my favorite day of the year. Never mind Christmas or any of that stuff. If I didn't get to celebrate Mother's Day, no kid gives a shit about Mother's Day. They just don't.
That's wrong.
They don't.
That's completely wrong.
Look, I do it. I love my mom, and I buy her something on Mother's Day. But no kid is going to be sitting there going, "Why don't I get to celebrate Mother's Day?" The kids just don't get. And Jim, to call back a point you made earlier about the separate water fountains, there was a time in this country when the majority of the country thought that blacks were not equal, and blacks acted against nature, and blacks shouldn't be allowed to raise children and have freedoms and all this stuff. And the reason that ended was not because of the majority. It was because Lincoln, as the president, put his fist down and said, "It's over. I'm vetoing this."
Race,
that's
behavior.
There's a huge difference
between
analogy.
race and behavior. Look, a vegetarian is defined
analogy.
by what he eats. He eats vegetables. A homosexual is defined by what he does, and we know what he does.
Yeah, but Bill, the whole thing is the racial argument that people make. Like when I said to you about the separate water fountains, and your point was, yeah, but that's not nature. But the argument being used to keep blacks separate was basically the same. Well, they're savage. They won't interact properly. People were using that argument. They were saying that it was based in nature. White people are of a different nature than blacks. And then the more that became ridiculous and obviously incorrect, society changed. And I think that's the point of it.
Obviously, a nature-based difference between male and female. If we're going to try to say that that's a social construction, then we really do have to call the asylum.
But is it... science to me has not proven conclusively whether or not you're born. Let's just say for the sake of argument, if you could just say this, let's just say that people are born gay. Now, a lot of people think it's a choice you make.
They're not born gay.
But let's just say that someday science proves that, Bill, just to play devil's advocate. Would you at least have changed your feelings then if you realized that people are actually coming into the world that way.
No, of course not, because, again, the whole purpose of marriage is for the creation of families, which, by definition, nature has excluded them. You know, their problem is with nature and with nature's God, and I don't think society should be working against what nature does. It should ratify and take its cues from nature.
Okay,
the fact of the matter is that a person who's homosexual is entitled to the same dignity and respect as everybody else, but when it comes to marriage, you're tinkering with an institution, and quite frankly, you better be prepared. Once you go down the road of saying Tom and Dick can get married, the state cannot have, there will be no principle left upon which you cannot say 3 people can get married, whether it's polygamy with gays or with straights. There's simply nothing left.
Bill, I have a question, because you keep bringing up nature. Where in nature does dead rising from the grave and the seas parting and water turning into wine and God speaking directly to people, where does that all fall into nature?
Well, you're talking about religion now, which is different from nature. I thought you were talking about human nature.
No, but we're talking about the church's stance on this, and you're bringing up nature. I'm just asking where in nature do these things fall?
First of all, I wasn't giving a Catholic argument. I happen to be a Catholic. I'm giving what I think is a pretty much of a Bio 101 argument that there are fundamental differences rooted in nature between men and women. And, you know, we can go on like this. Larry Summers got fired from Harvard University for mentioning this, but he wound up now ruining the economy under Obama. So I guess you can get promoted after you do something like that. But quite frankly, anybody who made arguments about, you know, race-based differences, those people were racist. I mean, you're not a racist if you acknowledge that there are fundamental differences between a man and a woman, and that only a man and a woman can yield the family. I mean, this is basic, and now we're so caught up with treating people equally that we've lost all common sense.
No, but Bill, you have to say, you did mention nature. You did bring that up. You're saying the nature, and then you said that homosexuals should be afforded the same dignity and stuff like that.
Yes.
But then you said you're tinkering with an institution.
Yes.
Now, an institution does kind of go under the same subheading to me as the black and white water fountains. That's a society type of a thing. That's a thing that can change in society. That, you know, when you mention institution, to me that is kind of covered by the same thing that would cover the black white water fountain and not nature.
I think what the best thing to do in this country is to have a discussion on why don't we just do away with marriage.
No, I don't think so. But I think.
So wait. Give me a reason why we shouldn't.
You know what? I can't give a good argument because marriages they fall apart so quickly.
Children.
What's that?
Because of children. That's why we shouldn't get rid of it. But that gets back to my principle. I have a principle. I think you guys are going on feelings and emotions. And you know what? I can't deal with that.
Well, isn't that what kind of makes a principle, though? Your feelings and your emotions kind of define your principles. Aren't they all kind of tied into the same thing?
You deal with emotions. You're talking girly talk.
No, we all have emotions. Come on. That's not true.
Jim's a woman.
Hold on. I resent that. Look, you know, you already know that I feel fat.
let me jump in for a second. Mongo comes up with a good point here talking about marriage. So, Bill, you got a sterile couple. They're sterile. They can't have kids. Should they be allowed to marry?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. Because they provide for a ready reserve in the case of the death of the father and the mother. They can step in, and they can still be a father figure and a mother figure. Okay, and so you got to have that kind of thing in reserve. Look, why can't we just deal with civil unions? Why does it have to be marriage? But you see, I knew once we went down the road with civil unions, the next step will be we'll go from third base right down to home plate. You know what's going to happen? We're going to have a constitutional amendment probably about 8 years from now, which will make sure that marriage is between a man and a woman. Because you're going to finally push the American people to the point where they'll say, listen, we won 30 out of 30 in the states, and if you can't win in California and Oregon, hey, folks, I guess it looks like the American people don't want it, and they don't want it, according to the Quinnipiac poll in New York State 2 weeks ago, and yet we have these people trying to shove it down our throat. It's not like as if there's a groundswell of people saying we want 2 guys to get married. It's just the opposite. These little totalitarians out in California, they had the referendum, and they're trying to get the courts to rig it now and say we don't care what the people want. This is really becoming democratic despotism.
But to me, that there are people who are fighting for what they want. Like, the fact is, these are people who are fighting for the right to get married. It's almost like the church, who looks at marriage as a very sacred thing or an important thing, the way marriages are going now, they're falling apart at a horrible rate. And I think
they're going to do wonders on gay marriage. The gay men, they have a great reputation of staying together, don't they?
No, I'm not saying that they have. Look, they're men. I bet you gay women are probably a lot better because gay men are men.
No, you're right about that.
But what I'm saying is, these are people fighting for the right to get married, and I don't think that their marriage divorce rate is going to be any worse than what's happening now. It's horrible.
What are we over, 50, 60%?
Something like that. I mean, and you know that.
And so the polygamists, too, they can make the same argument, right?
If people who want to marry different people?
No, I mean 3 people.
I mean 3 people. Look, I don't think you should be able to marry 3 people. Again,
why?
Look,
What,
again.
are you closed-minded?
No. And look, this is where you get into the slippery slope thing.
You should be allowed to. Why not?
He kind of got you there.
It's a tough point to debate.
You know he had it when Jim used slippery slope.
Yeah, right.
No.
Better use slippery
No,
slope.
I know that, but to me, just because I can't defend the point about polygamy, just because I would kind of go with you on polygamy and go, personally, I don't care about polygamy either. I mean, that doesn't bother me. If some guy in Utah wants to marry 6 of these maniacs,
what about Sam and Sally? They're brother and sister. They have a twisted relationship. What about
That's just hot.
Again, I don't know. Do we have the right to say that they can't marry? Look at British royalty. Bill, look at British royalty. There's been incestuous things from British royalty for centuries. If a brother and sister want to get married, I mean, look, I don't care. I really don't.
All right, let me tell you something.
So we just let it all go. Let it all hang out now.
A professor at Princeton University by the name of Peter Singer, he says that bestiality is okay with him. He thinks it's okay for parents to kill their kids up until the 28th day after the kid is born. But Fred and Fido, that's okay. Now, Dan Aykroyd actually said, I'm in favor of bestiality, except for the fact that I don't think the dog can give a consent. That's because he's not smart enough like Peter Singer, who teaches at Princeton, who has indicated that the dog can give you some body language indicators that he can consent. I'm not making this up. I can show you the evidence. So we are going to go down the road with Fred and Fido.
Oh, Aykroyd's bored, huh?
But you know what? Just because, I said slippery slope, because just because there are those ludicrous arguments coming out, it doesn't mean that the basic...
Men getting married is ludicrous.
Well, to you it is, but it's actually something that's been... I mean, nobody's putting bestiality on the ballot. There really isn't... there aren't millions of people who are for...
Are there so much for the marriage?
Bestiality. There is actually...
Do they want the benefits of being married?
Why shouldn't they get the benefits of being married?
The civil union is just as good.
Right.
Right, civil union.
What's the difference, Bill, between... I'm sorry, Joe. What's the difference between a civil union and a marriage, technically? I actually don't know.
Well, it depends on the state and what kind of perks they're going to give and the like. But I think the idea is that we still look. I guess what it comes down to is this: if marriage is special, it has to be treated as a special thing in law. If it's not special, then we can just have guys and gals who cohabit. Just let them get the same benefits. Let the polygamists, let the homosexuals, let them all have the same benefits.
Bill, do civil unions give people partner benefits and death benefits?
Yes, in certain states it does.
Okay, so. Would you say in most cases that marriage and civil union are the same thing with the exception of one being called civil union and one being called marriage?
I think that it's my understanding in some states you're probably right or pretty close to be. It's not 100%, but it's pretty close.
So basically in this whole fight, people are just holding on to it being called a marriage. I mean, you're making arguments about nature and what it says in the Bible, and what they are basically saying is we don't want it called marriage. We'll almost live with the fact that they can have the same benefits. They can live together. Do civil unions allow for adoption?
To give you an example, what happened out in San Francisco, they had a question about this, and the Archbishop was against it, and they said, listen, here's the way we're going to resolve it. Any person who lives with another person, it has nothing to do with sex, that person can claim that other person if he's a dependent. So that would mean that a son taking care of his father could claim the father as a dependent, or a gay guy could claim his partner. That was a way to kind of neutralize it without it making it so in your face that this is a gay legislation, and it actually didn't exclude people like the example I gave where there's a guy, a 40-year-old, taking care of his 80-year-old father. Otherwise, he would be excluded, too, just because they don't have sex.
What about adoption and stuff like that? Do civil unions allow for adoption?
No, that's a different question. Usually where you'll see one, you'll see the other, but those are different questions. But, listen, this is pretty serious stuff because in 2007 in New Jersey, there was a Methodist-owned facility, some entity, and they denied lesbians to have their wedding party there. And they were threatened and did lose their tax-exempt status. So people say, oh, well, religion can still do what they want. They don't even know what they're talking about. They are going to go down the road to try and have the law That will come later. The government will try to tell the religions that you have to allow people to get married or you'll lose your tax-exempt status. Look, Obama's already said he'll sign the Freedom of Choice Act, which if it gets passed, I don't know that it will, but if it did, it could arguably close Catholic hospitals.
Well,
why? Because if they don't perform abortions, they don't get any federal funds.
Well, I kind of have to jump back to your point then, Bill. What you said, being relevant is not important to the Catholic Church. I think that in that case, it has to be important to the Catholic Church. And I don't mean it like it's a businessman, but I mean it does greatly affect the way they conduct themselves and the way they survive. If that's what's happening, if that's what we as a country or whoever politicians say, or then being relevant has to somehow be appealing to the Catholic Church.
No, I'll give you an example. In the 1980s and 90s, New York City said to the Catholic Church, you have to have affirmative action for gays, and if you don't, we're going to cut off money for your foster care agencies. And O'Connor said, I'll close the foster care agencies, I'll close the schools, I'll close everything. You're not going to tell the Catholic Church what to do. And let me tell you something. The bishops in this country will close the Catholic hospitals, and everyone will suffer before they're ever told that as a condition of receiving federal funds.
Kind of goes against the religion, huh?
Yeah, Bill, do you really think that's what Jesus would do? Do you think Jesus would want it that way? You turn away sick and needy people to make a point? That's pride, Bill. That's pride, and pride is a sin.
Bill, that's an excellent point by Joe, Bill. That really is pride.
One for Joe, one for Joe.
One for Joey.
I got the scorecard here.
What's that, Bill?
What about the kid in the womb? You think Jesus would say it's okay to kill the kid?
No, but you want to talk about different issues. That's a different issue.
No, it isn't. We're talking about. We're talking about a Catholic hospital being told that as a condition of.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. If it's an abortion issue, that's one thing. But when we're talking about, I can understand a Catholic hospital saying we will not take federal funds and perform abortion. Like, I don't agree with that, but I can understand why they would be that strict about it.
No, that's not belief, though. That's a belief.
I'm talking about, let's stick with the issue of gay marriage and things like that. Do you really think that, like when Cardinal, because you said, didn't Egan say or O'Connor say, go ahead, we'll close all the these things if we have to have gays forced on us. So let's stick with that issue. Do you really think that Christ would want these institutions closed, knowing the type of rebel that Christ was and the fact that he was bucking society? Do you really think that he would want these helpful institutions closed?
I've never seen anything in the Bible that talked about homosexuality that wasn't opposed to it, particularly in the Old Testament. So I think that, you may as well write those. What about it? What about adultery? I mean, why don't we just keep open-minded about things? So the Catholic Church takes its teachings from the Bible, and the Bible's pretty strong on this, fellas.
You can't bring particularly Old Testament into this. Second Vatican Council in the 60s basically made the Old Testament irrelevant and declared that all of it was figurative talk and metaphor and all that stuff, and they were stories.
That goes way. No. The Catholic Church has never rejected the Old Testament like that. No.
I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and that seemed to be a pretty common lesson learned.
I think you fouled that one off, Joe.
Yeah, you fouled that
Hold on, Bill. Bill, what's your response to that? Because I don't know well enough, but it sounds to me like you're really giving up here to give Joe an answer.
He's going to give Joe a good beat.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe. Joe, I got to be honest. I don't want to agree with Bill, but I find it hard to believe that Catholics have said, the hell with the Old Testament. We don't need it.
No. Let me clarify.
How long have you been you went to Catholic school for how long?
My whole life.
Your whole life.
My father's
now,
in the
how long have
clergy.
you been dealing with Catholic school? Catholic.
Hold on a second. If I did not phrase that as eloquently as I should have, then I apologize. I'm not saying the Catholic is. I don't mean to say the Catholic Church has disregarded the Old Testament. What I'm saying though is it was taught to us frequently throughout Catholic school, mainly in high school, that Adam and Eve, for example, the story of Noah's Ark, all these things in the Old Testament, these tall tales, these
bullshit.
No, they said basically, look, these were things that were embellished to describe the act of God. They are not taken as literal by the Catholic Church any longer. Fundamentalists take them as literal. Okay, so you can't bring the Old Testament, and that's a point that Jim was making about changing with the times. There was a time when the entire Catholic Church believed that even the Old Testament was literal, and then when that started to be thought as insane by the majority of the public, then all of a sudden, you know what, guys? That part's not literal. That part's figurative. The New Testament is literal, though.
From the Catholic Church rejecting the Old Testament, which you've now agreed that was never the case, to the Catholic Church looking at it in a literary, metaphorical sense, which of course has always been the case. We are not the fundamentalists in the Catholic Church. We've always looked at it in a poetic stance, and to look at the whole ideas behind it, and that's why you have these constant interpretations. But where you'll never see, forget the Old Testament if you want, you'll never see anything in the New Testament which would ever give countenance to anything outside of marriage being between a man and a woman. It's simply not there. You can't even read it between the lines.
But don't forget, Bill, also, back then, when you're talking 2,000 years ago, when Greeks did plays, they would have men play the women. And talk about the Bible, because I said to you, what do you think Christ would do? And again, not with the abortion issue, because I think he'd probably give you the nod on that one. But when it comes to just closing helpful institutions to keep gays out. Don't forget the Bible. You would know much better than I. How many years after Christ's death did they vote on the most popular church stories and make them into what we know as the Bible? Like, there were plenty of teachings and readings and things that were written by Christ and spoken by Christ that were not included in the Bible.
Yeah, someone had to edit that stuff.
You're right. It's basically oral history starting about 60 years after Christ's death. And it continued on then, for a number of years, obviously after that. And you get the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century and the like. So it's been an oral history. And that's why some of the accounts, most of the accounts jive pretty well. But
I can't tell an accurate story from a year ago.
That's what, yeah, Bill. With all due respect, and I have family that are clergy. Sincerely, I don't practice anymore. But with all due respect, do you really think logically that something that started orally 60 years after the death of Christ and wasn't even documented for God knows how long after that could not have been tampered with, could not have been...
no, because you had eyewitnesses as well, and then everybody would have to be lying for... you're talking about a conspiracy so wild that even Oliver Stone wouldn't...
No, Bill, not lying. No, not lying, Bill. No. Like, people, like you say, there were these, like you say, certain things you look at as interpretive and poetic, and people retelling the stories of Jesus, or again, especially 60 years after, a lot of them were probably second generation by that point. By 60 years after Christ's death, if he died when he was 33, his friends were probably 33, that would make a lot of them 90s. Back then, people really didn't live that long, so you're probably dealing with a second-generation telling by then. Isn't it possible that a lot of what they said was interpretive and poetic without the motive of lying or being deceitful, but just of kind of getting their point across as well?
And everyone likes to pump up a story a little bit. Just a little bit.
There's no question that there's ongoing interpretations of the New Testament, but there are even people in the Jesus Seminar who are wackos. Even they agree there are certain fundamentals which cannot be disputed. And you have people who rejected the idea of Christ being the Son of God, who certainly understood his humanity, that he existed, and whatnot. So, it gets extremely complicated, but I think we're getting off the subject here. I see nothing that Jesus has ever taught that would ever confirm the idea that marriage could be something other than what it's supposed to be, which is namely between a man and a woman.
But just the idea, like, when you look at a guy like Christ,
A guy like Christ?
Yeah, I'm saying that because he came as a man. And when you look at the way he was, the way he looked differently than the people of the time, if you want to believe again, people think he was this way, people think he had long hair. Washing a leper's feet, like that went against the grain of the way society looked at lepers. That people looked at lepers like they were these disgusting things that should be cast out. And he knelt and he cleaned somebody's feet. What did they do with the leper? I don't know these stories. You would know.
There's a huge difference between tending to the dispossessed, the needy, and the forgotten, and the human trash that we've done in our society, and the way we've treated blacks and others. And there's no question that is sinful. But again, I think it's a hell of a leap to go from trying to care for the leper and saying that Tom and Dick can get married.
It sounds like a big leap, but when you look at the way society at that time viewed the leper, and you look at the way society views homosexual, it comes from the way society is looking at things. And we look at lepers now as like, wow, they're human beings. They should be treated with respect. They should be treated medically. Back then, they didn't, and Christ was bucking the system. And he would say, I'm going to treat this person beautifully and differently than you all will, and you are all wrong for not treating him well.
Treating an individual is one thing. For example, we don't throw homosexuals out of windows as they do in Muslim countries and things of that nature.
Right.
But what we do say is that while everyone's entitled to equal respect, we don't think that we should make marriage between a man and woman an alternative lifestyle. That's why we don't give the same benefits to a guy and a gal who cohabit. In other words, what used to be called shacking up. They don't get the same benefits. According to what you're saying, we're leaving them out too. They're another victim in our society. More people have been excluded. You know what? The hell with them. If they don't want to get married, they should get nothing.
But Bill, isn't like you just said? I just lost my point. As you were speaking, I looked up at the television and my mind just shut down. I had something to say. My hand is actually in the air.
I'm gonna tell you,
and my brain just said nothing is coming out.
Let's go to Keith for a second.
Well, I'm going to just say this right now. My brother, who's a bishop, would really give Joe a good beating on all his horseshit that he's been saying.
Yeah. Joe made a couple of good points, man.
He did halfway good. I got to say, he did halfway good. But my brother has he's very extensive in his knowledge about the church.
Yeah, my dad's a deacon. What's your point?
A deacon. Shut up.
No, I won't shut up.
You know what a deacon is?
Yeah, it's a step below
it's
a priest,
street
stupid. It's a step below a priest, stupid.
Well, that's and
my dad doesn't completely agree with my stance. Obviously, he's a deacon in the Catholic Church. He has his own beliefs. I'm an atheist.
Well, you're an atheist.
So we have completely separate beliefs. But the point is, dude, this is what kills me. And I'm not trying to take a dig at you, Keith, but it's the God's honest truth.
I want you to take a dig at me.
It's like you're
Joe,
preaching all this church.
No, I'm not
you're
preaching
not
church.
Christ-like in
Listen
any
to
way.
Me. Joe, I understand you wanting two women to be married. You're shaped like a woman. You got tits. He looks like a lesbian.
that really made Bill happy.
Yeah, I heard the laugh. Right? Bill enjoyed that one a lot.
But I'm saying,
no. I see what you're saying. But I just think that everybody you got mixed up from what we were originally saying. It's about the kids. And it's about the kids, a mother and a father. We want 1,000. We want way over that.
So does
and nobody
mean,
stayed on that.
Does that mean nobody?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joseph. I got to say this one thing, and I called you Joseph. You talk about it's about the kids, and Bill acknowledges the barbaric way the church for a long time handled the scandals with the kids, and they do handle it a lot better now. But come on, I mean, it was only society's push, Bill, that caused the church to handle the pedophilia scandals the way they did. For many, many years, it was the unspoken, ugly secret that the good, even the good priests and the good or the well-meaning cardinals and stuff, buried it for the better good of the church.
Let me just say something. And I'm certainly not going to exculpate the Catholic Church in this, but I'll say this. For many, many years, every institution, from the public schools to the Boy Scouts to the whatever group you want to talk about that dealt with kids, every group was told by the psychologist that we can fix these men and we'll give them some therapy and rehabilitation and then we'll put them back into the field, so to speak. And, of course, if these psychologists, to me, and I have a doctorate in sociology and I had psychologists working for me for a number of years when I was a professor, these people are absolutely wrong in the way they've given this advice. They haven't paid a price for this. The cardinals, like the school superintendents, figured, okay, well, Joe wasn't a bad guy. What he did was wrong. But now he's been fixed, according to Dr. Psycho. And, of course, now he's put back in, and the same thing happened again and again.
I don't think
I named him Joe.
Wait, Bill, I don't think you can blame. Come on. I don't think that's fair. I don't think you can blame the way for many, many, many years the church handled those scandals, which was to keep a hush on it. I don't think you can somehow throw the blame on bad advice from school superintendents and psychologists. I think that's a way of diverting it from
Let me give you an example here. I mean, first of all, we're talking a sweeping way. Just take New York City here. We didn't have a major problem here. It was certain places like Boston and L.A. and other places. It's not as if every single diocese.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why they didn't have a big problem in New York is because they had good priests like Father Benedict Rochelle, who's a Columbia University PhD in psychology, who dealt with these situations. But so we have to be careful about making sweeping generalizations. But look, we got a terrible problem about this in the public schools.
Well,
Dr.
Joe,
Carol Shakeshaft is the nation's leading authority on this, and she estimates that the problem in the public schools is 100 times greater than what it is in the Catholic Church. And so we had 10 accusations last year over 40,000 priests. Now, it doesn't make headlines because it's not a big thing, but quite frankly, most of the damage was done in the 60s, 70s, and the first half of the 80s.
Well, Bill, here's what I think when I'm looking at Joe, and Joe is a little angry about his Catholic school experience, I believe. And I think Joe had a certain. You want to tell us something, Joe?
Did you have an experience?
Joe, you got
Did you have an experience?
No, I wish I did, to tell you guys. It would bring the funny back to this raging debate that we're having right now.
We should do a speed round and get Bill off the phone. Bill, did you see Religulous, Bill Maher's film?
No, I didn't. I told him, and he keeps going on Larry King saying Bill Donohue said he wants to beat me up. I did say in jest that I'd like to meet him in Madison Square Garden, put on the Everlast. And even though I'm older than him, I know I could kick his butt.
Why wouldn't you see that movie and then comment about it?
Right.
Because it was a pretty big movie. It wasn't one of these little features, little indie films that no one saw.
I know. I used to go to pubs on weekends to relax.
Well, he did get into the Vatican too, Bill. I mean, it's not. I mean, Bill Maher, we know he's very, very liberal, but he did actually he did actually interview guys who worked very closely with the Pope, priests. I mean, people who really are in the know. He didn't just talk to a bunch of fringe players.
Right. Yeah. I look the movie. We've covered enough of this. What this guy's had to say in the past, and at least in the movie, from everything we've learned, we did have people here at the office go to see it and give me a report on it.
But shouldn't you see
it? He didn't single out the Catholic Church the way he typically does with his vicious comments and when he's been relentless. Look, the guy's a punk. All right. As far as I'm concerned, I have no use for Bill Maher, and I haven't got a whole lot of use for this other punk, Ron Howard, and his friend Dan Brown, coming out with this movie May 15th, Angels and Demons. What a bunch of crap this is.
What is it? I've not heard of it.
It's the sequel to Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, the sequel.
Yeah.
What about this punk Joe DeRosa? What do you think?
Wait, hold on. I want to hear about the new Ron Howard film.
Yes.
Bill was on a rant there. Go ahead,
Bill.
Yeah. They're saying there's this group, the Illuminati, which existed in the 1600s. And they persecuted, they were angry that Galileo was persecuted by the Catholic Church, and so they're seeking revenge. They're alive today, and they're going to blow up the Vatican. Of course, Robert Langdon, the Harvard professor played by Tom Hanks, he's going to come to the rescue of the Vatican and whatnot. Let me tell you something first. First of all, Galileo was never persecuted by the Catholic Church. I can talk about that if you want. The Illuminati didn't exist in the 1600s, folks. It was founded in Bavaria on May the 1st of 1776, and it folded in 1787. So why is Dan Brown conjuring up this crazy
Bill.
To go after the Catholic Church on science?
Bill, it's a work. There's a word called fiction. It's a work of fiction. It's a
Why
fictitious
does he say it's an
book.
historical fact? If
you know what else, Bill?
Website,
you know what else didn't happen? The Tarantino movie coming out, The Inglourious Bastards. That didn't happen. Where Brad Pitt didn't rally together 6 soldiers to go kill Nazis mercilessly during war. It's a story that takes place in a historical context, but it's a work of fiction. Dan Brown has never claimed that any of that work to be true. In fact, he's come out.
He has. That's what.
That's not true. He's come out openly and said to these accusations that it's a work of fiction. I don't understand what everybody's upset about.
Bill,
right
what did he say? Bill saying. What did he say on his website, Bill?
Look at the first page of the Da Vinci Code before you even get into the story. He lists 3 facts, all of which are demonstrably false. And in Angels and Demons, if you go on to Dan Brown's own website, it'll say it's an historical fact that the Illuminati were formed in 1600. I mean, the guy plays both sides of the street. There's another guy like Oliver Stone, and it's half fact, it's half fiction. And let me tell you something. CBS doesn't show the reruns of Amos and Andy. That was fiction. But African Americans take great umbrage at being stereotyped like that, and that's why they don't show it, because they don't want to offend African Americans. And they're not going to make a movie out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is an anti-Semitic screed in the late 19th century, because it'll affect Jews. When it comes to Catholics, we can make it up. We can invent dirty laundry. We can do what we want. It's the same old crap. I've seen it time and time again. It's only one group you can dump on with impunity, and that's Catholics, and I'm fed up with it.
All right, Bill. Well, we're going to wrap it up, but you're always a compelling guest. We're working on you.
We were talking about the Dakota Fanning movie this morning. I guess it's being shown in Sundance
Hound Dog.
finally.
Yep.
Hound Dog, where she gets raped.
Yeah. There's they say it's one of the most disturbing scenes to watch. She's 13 now, but she's 12 in the movie. She gets raped in the movie. It's a very horrific scene from what they're saying. Very difficult to watch.
Statutory rape or like violent?
No. This is just violent. No bones about it. This one is really bad. I don't think it's presented or meant to be presented as something pleasant or nice or anything like that. And I read this morning, Bill Donohue, head of the Catholic League, was trying to launch some kind of an investigation into whether any laws were broken. And he got child pornography laws were broken. And we have Bill on the phone.
All right, let's say hi to Bill. Bill Donohue from the Catholic League.
Hello,
How you
sir.
doing, guys? How's everything?
Hello, Bill.
Very good. We're still working. How?
You're doing great.
Yeah, look at us.
You can beat Donald Trump. That's all right.
Yeah. Donald had a. We're still sorting that out to see. We like getting the facts first before we unload on people, Bill. I was a little surprised about your move here. This really doesn't have anything to do with the Catholic religion, and that's usually your forte. That's usually when you dive in and defend the faith, as it were. But this movie has got you motivated.
Well, it does, and also you're quite right about what you just said. It's not normally within our orbit, and also you're right, and most of the media today are wrong up on the Drudge Report and all over the world, saying that I've called for a boycott of the movie and asked for it to ban. I never asked for any of that stuff. I don't know where these reporters get this information. What I've called for is a federal investigation to see whether the child pornography laws have been broken. Now, why did I do it? I don't want to skirt your question.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's been a problem in the Catholic Church, all right?
Right.
And I'm so sick and tired. If we have a real interest in protecting kids and not just in getting priests, then it shouldn't matter whether it's coming out of Hollywood or a priest, an imam, a school teacher, a rabbi, whoever it is. And I don't like the double standard that we can celebrate, oh, this is cute. It's artfully done, I'm told. It's a carefully choreographed child rape scene. Look, if in fact child abuse is wrong, then simulated child sex rape, I think, is also wrong.
Yeah. When you kind of enter that world of art, though, it's a very tricky situation. If done properly, if it's part of a story, no matter how horrific it is, and someone wants to depict it on film, why shouldn't that person have that right to depict that art on film?
Have the right. That's why I object to what came out in the Guardian today in the UK, saying I call for the movie to be banned. I never asked for it to be banned. Now look. This is the way liberals think, okay? They think this is cute, okay? You can have this.
I don't think anybody. Wait, Bill. I don't think anyone's saying this is cute. All I've ever read about this whole thing is that it's a horrific thing to watch.
I don't think it's a comedy.
Well, if you read Lou Lumenick this morning in the New York Post, he tries to say it's okay. If you listen to the chicks on the View yesterday, they tried to say it was okay.
Yeah.
You know what would bother these people, the Rosie O'Donnells of this world? Let's say the guy was trying to rape the 12-year-old was a black guy, and she would use the N-word while she's getting raped. That would upset liberals, but not the rape scene. That's the way they think.
All right. Well, I do agree with that.
He's kind of making that up, though.
Yeah, that is kind of a long way around that whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, what is the investigation all about? Because I would assume. Now, I don't know, and neither do you, what was going on behind those cameras and how sensitive people were to this child's needs and protection on the set.
Well, there's no question her mother was there, and of course we had the teacher/child social worker holding her hand. That's all very nice, but she's 12 years of age. What happens 30 years from now or 20 years from now? She's a middle-aged woman, and she has some problems with this. There have been other women who've been involved in these kind of situations. They've had problems too. But look, my real interest in this was to create a national discussion. I have no doubt that the people who are defending this would defend if a 12-year-old being penetrated 2 years from now. Hollywood's going to keep pushing the envelope, and quite frankly, when you're dealing with kids, it seems to me it should be hands off.
I got to disagree, though. I don't think people would be defending real child sex. Depicting something in a movie, not because it's sexy art like Mapplethorpe tries to pull off, but because it's an event that occurs. It's like depicting a murder. I mean, no one thinks that a child murder is acceptable, but it is depicted in film. And I think that the term art, not to be confused with quote-unquote erotic art, which is made to titillate, but this is something that is an actual awful event that happened. And if it's handled properly behind the scenes and the kid is protected and there's nothing sexual behind the scenes, it's almost like doing a murder. What's wrong with it if it's done properly in real time, in the real world?
Well, you make a persuasive case, but here's my response, fellas. If you have an 18-year-old playing a 14-year-old, okay, I can deal with that. This girl's 5 or 6 years off of a tricycle. She's 12 years of age, and she's doing this. You know, there's a lot of sick men in our society who get a lot of strange ideas from the Internet. I'm not saying that the average guy seeing this movie is going to go out and rape somebody. Of course he's not. But somebody who's inclined to be disturbed, he sees this, he says, hey, it's not only on the Internet, this is my local neighborhood theater. I think it sends the wrong message. I think they could have done this movie and got that same effect without exploiting a 12-year-old.
See, you're saying exploited like it is exploitation before you really have all the facts. And from what you say, there are guys that can grab a catalog for children's clothing and go off on a tear outside their house in their community.
Bother spending the $10 to see go to fanning movies so that they can go and then do what happened there.
You know, it's interesting. You can't even talk about the subject of religion in a public school because the kids are considered to be, quote, impressionable. I get that 1,000,000 times over. The kids are impressionable at that age. Well, did she become less impressionable at the age of 12?
I think also you really have to take this as a case-by-case thing because this girl is definitely kind of very mature beyond her years as far as an actress, and it seems life in general. She seems very intelligent when you see her.
I think also she got paid very well for that rape.
Got paid very well for
the rape, yes.
Can I mention one other thing, fellas? That at Sundance they also have this movie Zoo, where it's about a real life story of a guy from Seattle a couple of years ago. He decided to have sex with a horse.
Yes.
And he punctured his colon, and the guy's dead. Now, well, I want to ask, and nobody's talking about it, so let me bring it up.
It's all I do talk about.
What happened to the horse?
Whatever happened to the horse?
Yeah, I want to know. Whatever happened to the horse? I mean,
he put an ad out on a Craigslist.
Nobody knows that the horse has actually killed a bunch of people with it.
Well, did the horse survive? And has Peter filed a lawsuit alleging that his animal rights have been violated? And because this horse was an Arabian stallion, I want to know, does this constitute a bias crime?
Oh, God. Wow.
Look,
See,
I
you're
like
having
that.
fun with it. You're having fun with deviant sex.
You have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, so?
We've learned that about Bill Donohue. He has a sense of humor.
Apparently so.
I'd like to bring up, by the way, my name's Louis C.K., and I had a show called Lucky Louie, and you issued a press release saying a lot of negative things about my show. So I'm on the radio with you. I can't not mention it. I remember one thing you said. You made a list of things that were offensive to Catholics about Lucky Louie, and one of them was an episode we did where I wanted to help my wife have an orgasm before we decided not to have another child until we were having good sex and she was having an orgasm. And you listed that as something that's offensive to Catholics, which I don't understand, because a married couple trying to make sure that their sex life is healthy before moving on to a second child, how can you have a problem with that?
Did I have a problem with that?
Wow. Apparently, according to your press release.
The Reagan defense, I love it.
That's offensive to Catholics.
Bill, is there anybody that ever does the press releases that you might just kind of glance over and go, all right, and then they kind of, do you word everything accurately? Because what Louis is telling you is the truth. I mean, that really did come out.
Yep.
Well, I mean, listen, I write all my own stuff, so I can't blame it on somebody else.
Have you watched Lucky Louie?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's
interesting.
That's odd because you wrote that thing.
I quite frankly, I don't recall I did. Why don't you send it to me?
All right. Well,
I'm writing about Arabian horses and bias crimes.
Yeah.
All right, is it probably in your archives on the site, because it was up there?
Yeah. You wrote it, and it was not nice.
When was that?
Liar.
Over the summer.
He's calling you a liar.
Well,
when the show came out in June.
Yeah, June or July.
Yeah, we're trying to find the actual thing here, Bill, for you.
So
okay.
Just Google Lucky Louie Catholic.
In the meantime, how is the call for some type of federal investigation going?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to bother with these people. My whole purpose here really is to create a national discussion. Would the average parent let their 12-year-old be involved in a child rape scene if it was carefully choreographed? I don't think so.
I think if they knew that their child was mature enough and an actress and knew that, this isn't her first role. I think she can understand the differences between being in a movie and a life event. You know what I mean?
She may be able to, but how about some of the disturbed men that are going to see this?
Well, we can't base Bill, that's the biggest problem I have with everything in life that people complain about. We cannot base our entertainment and our lifestyle on the fact that a few people might have deviant behavior based on something they see or play a video game or something else. Why should the large percent, the majority, have to stop living their life and enjoying their life because a few people might lose their mind if they see something?
Well, listen, I'm raising moral objections. Again, I didn't call for a boycott, which I could. It's a First Amendment right. I didn't call for it to be banned. I want to know that the child pornography laws, have they been broken? And they may have.
Don't you think there are people on set that really are there to take care of the children and make sure things don't happen? There are things, for God's sake, when animals are on the set, they make sure that the ASPCA is down there. When children are on set, they have tutors, they have social workers. all that stuff is taken care of, and there are laws in place to protect the children.
See, I don't believe you. I want to know what happened to that horse.
I think that Bill is. I think the real thing is that he's trolling for stuff that's out, and he goes, "Oh, there's a rape of a girl. I could do something with that. That sounds good." Because
what I'm looking at is the hypocrisy in this country, which says that we have priests who molest kids, and that's awful. But Hollywood can celebrate it, make a buck off it by
so priests should be allowed to molest kids. Because Dakota Fanning was depicted being raped
I know,
in a
it's
story.
simulated.
I think one is a movie.
There's definitely a difference between simulated rape of an actress and the actual rape of a boy in a
that's
church.
That's not the way the law reads. As a matter of fact, there was an amendment to the law just last year, the Adam Walsh law by Mike Pence out of Indiana, and simulated sex using a child is, in fact, illegal.
Right, so it's just as bad. You're right. No,
Mr. Donohue, you're not off the hook. We found the press release about Lucky Louie.
Okay, what does it say?
It says that HBO's Lucky Louie is barbaric. Catholic League President Bill Donohue commented on last night's episode of the HBO program Lucky Louie. Blasphemy often tracks obscenity, and Lucky Louie has been obscene from the first episode, so we were due. And then you make a bunch of bullet points of things.
Here's a sample of the 9 previous episodes, but you said about 5 minutes ago you've never seen Lucky Louie.
Yeah.
Well, the fact, you know
how does that work?
No, because we have staff here look at this stuff. I can't sit around and look at this stuff, but they give me the report. Now, are those bullets inaccurate? Why don't you read them?
So here's one. It says Louis, the main character, is found blanking in the broom closet, doing something with himself. Which, I know now, and that's Catholics don't believe in doing that. And
that's kind of cute.
Yeah, Louis does not want to get his wife pregnant until they figure out a way for her to have consistent orgasms. So what's wrong with that from a Catholic point of view?
Well, we prefer them to be inconsistent. Now, look, you've got some of the bullets there that you probably won't even want to read on the air about some of the stuff.
No, well, but address this one, because these are your words, and you're laughing, but I just take anything you say about Dakota Fanning seriously, because you don't take this seriously.
Because you couldn't even repeat on the air what I just said there, in taking out one of the statements. Right?
We'd like to, but there are FCC regulations in place that are way out of hand.
This is one, it's your words. Louis does not want to get his wife pregnant until they figure out a way for her to have consistent orgasms. That's something you found objectable, made you call my show barbaric. So tell me what's barbaric about that.
I'm bringing attention to something which is patently obscene, and if I have a snide remark and you can't get that kind of humor, I don't know what to do with it.
Now, Bill, I
don't understand that.
He's trying to see. Louis wants your reason why that's something the Catholic League would be interested in. Would object to. Why is a guy and a husband and wife having a healthy sex life before they decide to get pregnant? Why is that a problem?
Yeah.
Well, quite frankly, the media call me here all day long wanting to know, to give a moral traditionalist view on a particular subject. And so while my orbit is generally anti-Catholicism, yes, of course, we branch out into other areas when you deal with something that's patently obscene.
Are you just
zero answer.
So you're pretty much just from the school of sex just for procreation?
Well, obviously, I'm not.
But no.
The Catholic Church's teachings on that.
Not just for pleasure, so that would be the problem?
We don't defend adultery. Is that what you mean? We don't.
No, inside of a marriage.
It's inside a marriage.
Inside of a marriage, two people having sex.
That's the way it should be.
Making a choice not to get pregnant until they're having a healthy sex. That's wrong.
That would be in the best interest of everybody in society.
All right, that's what the episode was about. That's what they were doing.
Yes.
They were married.
I think you're leaving out a few things, a few ellipses here.
No, Bill, actually,
I need some of those other bullets.
I have a question for you, too, Bill, because you just said that a lot of times your staff will make points, but then the context is lost. If you're going to quote something and say it's obscene, you should see it in context, because right here, there's one you put, a 16-year-old girl offers to perform oral on Louis. Now, you're correct, that did happen, but in the episode, it was about a rebellious teenager running away, and Louis not only didn't accept it, he told his wife that he was disturbed by it, and the wife talked to the teenager and worked it out and tried to help the girl go back home. So the episode was not about being titillating or being dirty. It was about something uncomfortable that happened. And Louis, the character Louis, goes to his wife and tells her.
And we help reform the kid and send her back
her home.
It's like a Facts of Life episode.
Yeah, it was just like Facts of Life.
What you're doing. Here's the thing: is that you say, you got your guys watch this stuff. You don't even watch it. They prepare a statement, and you say, "Yeah, that sounds like that's us," and then you send it out, which to me is
no, wait, don't put words in my mouth. It depends.
Why the other people did?
Yeah, they put the words in your mouth.
It depends on the show and what's going on. For example, we tape The View every day, and we have somebody watch it. And if Rosie goes off on Catholics again, then obviously I come in and take a look at that little part of it.
Yeah, because that's going to get you more press. I just think that you're a press hound. I don't think you really care about the stuff you say because you wrote this. You don't remember.
How do you know about motive? Now you're getting into motive.
Well, because you didn't watch the show and you put out this statement calling it barbaric, which is very strong statement.
Do you guys actually think that anybody who runs an advocacy organization, whether it's GLAAD, ADL, now NAACP, do you actually think that the CEO, I actually write all the news releases, do you actually think that Abe Foxman over at ADL sits around and watches TV about Jews being bashed?
If they write the press release, then they should watch it.
You guys are living in another world.
Yeah, but you wrote it, so you didn't watch the show, and then you wrote the release, which is dishonest.
But you haven't found one thing there in that release that's inaccurate.
Yes, but in context, it's dishonest. If you quote something and you quote it selectively, it can be dishonest because you're quoting it out of context. So in the meaning, it's like if someone says, "I'm going to kill you" to their friend, and then you say that was a murder threat, you're quoting them correctly, but the context you're using it in is dishonest.
Right.
So the context does matter, Bill.
That's what the apologists for Dakota founding are saying. You have to to look at the context.
You do, though.
But
you do everything.
That's what we're saying.
Well, is The Last Temptation? Wait, I'm sorry. What was the movie with the Christ recently? Is The Passion of the Christ a movie that advocates violence because there was violence whipping Christ, or in the context of the crucifixion, is that violence acceptable to show in a movie?
Well, there's no question about it. It's acceptable.
Well, then why is the
historical story?
Right. So then why is the context there acceptable and not considered a violent or a gratuitously violent film?
We really have to have all this discussion about oral sex
if you're going to bring
else and these girls coming on to the guy, right?
No, Bill.
That's really important.
I'm talking. So let's just say,
of course it is.
In context,
girls leaving their homes because they're confused and living in a violent place, and then offering oral sex to other men and finding out that was a mistake from a responsible adult is important.
And it's relevant. It's extremely relevant.
And you don't know that because you didn't watch the show, and yet you wrote this.
I don't know what it was. Look, have you seen Dakota Founding yet?
No, but that's why I wouldn't comment on it. I wouldn't have my organization, if I had one, say anything about it until I saw it.
Isn't that interesting? It was about a year ago. The media kept telling us, you don't have to see the depictions of Muhammad because we made up your minds for you. We think it's offensive.
But because
that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Bill, I agree with that.
Let me give you one example. Just imagine this. A white guy is performing oral sex on a statue of Martin Luther King with an erection. Yeah. Now, do you have to actually see it in order to find out that it's ugly?
No, there's a difference.
Depending on the context, that could be very interesting.
The context.
Of course, the context.
The
context of that, by the way, is your bizarre imagination.
Yeah, Bill, come on.
That up.
Yeah, you sicko.
I love the guys who say, "What if some guy performed oral on?" How would you like that? I don't know. What's your problem that you're even picturing that?
Why don't you explain to African Americans what the context?
I'll give you a context.
It never happened.
I would absolutely give you a context of how that would go over. If it was on an episode of the Dave Chappelle show when that was on in some type of comedy sketch, it would be completely accepted by the black community.
Oh, I don't think so.
I do.
Well, I don't
not by no. There would be certain people that would be outraged, but the majority would find it hysterical. Dave Chappelle put out a lot of material that was very would have been racist. Yes. If it was the other way around.
I think I beg to differ. I think you're totally wrong on that. Blacks would be outraged and rightfully so.
But you made up the whole thing.
You made it up, Bill.
Happened. And there's making a case on something you made up.
You keep dancing around this whole question of context.
We're not dancing. We're talking about things that actually have context, and you're dancing around them by creating false things that don't have context in reality.
An analogy.
What's that?
I have to give you an analogy.
But
no, you
ridiculous.
don't have to. You can actually talk about the thing we're talking about. The first time we raised this just to get your reaction on your own words, your only reaction was, well, I don't know because I didn't see it. Somebody else watched it and told me what was on it, and then
but you just rinsed it with the bullets. It seems to me that was sufficient.
Yeah, but
HBO's Lucky Louie is barbaric.
All they're saying is I think that they think you should at least watch the thing.
I don't want to take over your show with this, but I think this guy is full of baloney.
Well, Louis, he knocked your show, and you had every right to talk to him about it.
I'm glad we watch what you like, Louis, and you got a very interesting picture on life. I'll tell you that.
But no, you can't. The context discussion does matter, Bill, because to bash something as barbaric when you took the complete opposite intention of the show, which was
because
a positive
you didn't watch
thing about
it.
A family.
That's what's wrong with being the president of an organization and saying a very strong and out of context a statement about it without having seen the show yourself.
Well,
it's
all I know
irresponsible.
is
That's kind of disturbing that you haven't seen the show.
It's
And then
nice
you
to
write
know
this
that
thing
Lucky
about
Louie likes the child rape movie. That's what I like.
Oh, so you're
Oh,
just
boy.
That's the next statement. That's
You're
the
an
next.
idiot.
That's the next statement in the press release.
You're an idiot.
Lucky Louie
You're
likes
unable
child
to,
rape.
You're unable to discuss anything. You can't defend your own words. You're
Fanny
full of it.
Flick balk worse than bite. Yes, there's a rape scene, and it goes on about there's no nudity, just seeing her underwear and whatnot.
So what? You didn't see it?
Please.
No, you didn't see it. You don't watch the stuff you
My
comment
God.
about.
What
You
a
just,
stretch.
you're totally uncredible. You're not interesting.
You know, quite frankly, every movie that comes down the pike that slams the Catholic Church, you like. There's no question about it.
No,
And
that's
you
not
also-
true. No,
and you
that's
also
not
like-
true.
And you also like.
You don't know what I like.
Well, I certainly do. I know you like this movie.
He likes
No,
men,
you don't.
Bill.
I didn't see the movie. You blockhead.
You haven't seen it. You write about it.
I didn't see it. I'm not even interested in it. I'm not even talking about it. I'm talking about my show that you slammed and are unwilling to stand behind your slams because they came from not even watching the show. They came from being president of the Catholic League and wanting it attention. You just want attention.
Well, I'll tell you certainly gave it to me, didn't you?
Yeah, I did because you pooed on my show, you think.
All right, Bill.
Also, by the way, Catholics are wrong about God. Let me just throw that in.
Hey, it's the only true religion, my friend. You burn in hell. I'm not.
I'm going to have a ball there.
All
right, Bill. Thanks for coming on the show, and we'll keep tabs on the news and see what pops up about this whole thing.
I'll have to try and keep it in context.
Yeah,
Let's keep it in context, Bill, and go find that horse.
Learn something good.
All right.
Maybe go see the movie.
Take it easy.
All right. There he goes. Bill Donohue from the Catholic League.
Jesus. Wow.
Effing oh.
Wow. Louis just completely called him out on that, and there really wasn't an answer.
That you see, the thing is, I would have been totally happy to debate him about it because look, every one of these points, from a religious standpoint, he might have a point on it. I was really interested.
And if your name is on it, you had better be familiar with it.
Totally interested in hearing his. If he had said, "Yeah, no, you shouldn't be giving your wife an orgasm," I'd like to hear the Catholic point of view on that. That's interesting, but he didn't. He just said, "I don't watch stuff that I write about." And
the one line subject matter of the show that Jimmy pointed out was a perfect example of context. How when it's written like that, it sounds like this is a gratuitous scene with a young girl, impressionable, and sexual activity with an older man. And meanwhile, the whole thing was about you getting upset by the whole situation and taking care of it, and but taken out of context. And then when he came up with the context of his imagination, it just blew the whole thing apart.
He's got a great imagination, though.
Wow, huh? Where did that come from?
How great is it that he goes, I never saw the show. I don't remember writing that. And then we got it right here in front of us.
Exactly.
I mean,
no, that's what these guys do, though. If you give them something that's in reality that they shouldn't have said, they come back with something that doesn't exist and say, what about this?
I want to know how you get a
What
statue
about
of
that?
Martin Luther King in that state.
Yeah, and then
in the state of arousal.
And then he decides what other people would have thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's his only way to argue back. Yeah, well, I bet if I killed your mother, you would get all weird. And you, well, I guess I would. I'm not sure.
In the right context.
Yeah.
Also, go ahead, Jimmy, go.
And these hilarious Lucky Louie episodes on DVD the 30th.
Oh,
That's right.
The
Nice
30th of
plug.
January.
That's
Next
right.
week. Next, what, Tuesday?
Let's sign a copy and send it to Bill Donohue.
Yeah.
Go ahead. He
Say,
probably
please
would
finally watch
enjoy
this.
watching.
Also, let's not forget that the great Louis C.K. called Bill
Yes.
Donohue from the Catholic League a blockhead.
A blockhead. He was stumbling over curse words, and he goes, blockhead.
Because he wanted to make sure people heard that he, called him a name, so he's like searching for something that would make sense on regular radio.
Nice little rascal's insult.
You wait to get over to XM.
You blockhead.
You dink. Can we please call him from XM so I can try again? Just unload. It's painful.
It was like he moved the football when you were trying to kick it.
We got to take a break.
All right, we'll do that. Louis C.K., yes, Lucky Louie on DVD this coming Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday already? Wow.
Yeah, this coming Tuesday.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Already for pre-sale on Amazon. You can already go try it.
Oh, go to Amazon and then
Watch it and burn in hell.
and do some pre-sale. It's the Opie and Anthony show. All right, let's go to Tom. Tom, what's up?
Hey, what's up, boys?
Hey, Tom.
I hope Bill Donahue's staff down there at the Catholic League has a good claw hammer to detach his sack from the wall. You nailed it, Louie. Nicely done. Watch it out, boys.
He was blindsided. It just came together. We were going to have Bill Donohue on the show today. Lucky Louie was stopping in as well. I had no, Louis C.K. was stopping in. I had no idea that he wrote all that stuff about you, so it worked out perfect.
I love when that happens.
I heard his name and I was like, oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Nice opportunity.
I remember, too, before you even, because Louis held up a sign that said, this guy trashed our show. And I remember before you even said that, I was like, boy, I think I remember him coming into conversation not liking Lucky Louie.
Yeah, no, and like I was saying, if he had responded to the things he said and backed them up, I would have had a civil conversation with him. I wanted to find out why he said them and debate it. Because he has a right to those feelings. I was raised Catholic. I mean, it's a religion. But he's just, I didn't watch it. Somebody watched it for me.
There's a
And by the way, what if somebody had oral sex with a Martin
Luther King statue? Where did that come from?
And if Dakota Fanning can get raped, then we should be able to have sex with boys. It made no sense.
It was a wild and woolly conversation.
He must have had a hell of a youth with that imagination.
You know,
alone at night in his bed.
Here's what the problem is.
He's got some great scenarios.
He has a sense of humor, you can tell to some point. But when other people like staffers are writing stuff and he's signing off on it, he wields a lot of power. Mm-hmm. The guy is the guy, believe me, that got us fired. Mm-hmm. It was the Catholic League's input to Infinity Broadcasting that got us thrown off the air. Regardless of if you agree that we should have been thrown off the air or not, I don't even want to get into that. He's the guy that did it, though.
Yep.
He wields too much power to just on a signature be able to have people, condemned.
Well, and the thing about the Catholics is that my grandmother's Catholic, and anything that she's told to believe that has Catholic written on it, she goes, "Oh, okay."
There you
because
go.
they're very devout people, and they're very loyal to their faith. They don't question anything. Yep. So if you put something out, they're going to believe it. So that makes him, very.
I knew this family growing up that was strict Catholic, ridiculous Catholic, where the mother would read the newspaper, the Catholic newspaper, when we wanted to go out to the movies. They had like a bevy of beautiful daughters in this house. So us as young guys were in our teens, we used to just pile over that house and try to take the daughters out. So we'd go to the movies with them. And she would look through the Catholic Digest and check the rating for the movie, and some of them were condemned. It was like, this movie condemned.
This movie is excommunicated.
Yeah, we would have to pick a movie that was acceptable from that. Meanwhile, we never went to the movies.
No.
We would go and have just ridiculous sex in parks and schoolyards, and everything. Didn't matter as long as the movie we said we were going to.
I don't want you pretending to see this movie while you're having oral with my daughter.
That's exactly
so Catholic. That's so beautifully Catholic.
Typical.
And of course she knows. I mean, she's not in it. She knows that you're doing that.
Exactly.
She just doesn't want it done while pretending to see the wrong movie.
I'm pretending that you're going to this movie. Everything, as long as the story lines up, you're seeing a nice movie that I won't even think about. And they used to go, "Hey, take our car," because they had the station wagon. I can't tell you how many of me, my friends, my brother, all the sisters, just in this car, their own car. It was like that 70s show type station wagon
with the paneling.
Just unbelievable.
Hey, Fred's in the background here.
I hear
Brooklyn.
him giggling.
Yeah, Fred, what's up?
Man. Hey guys, I adore you guys, man. Hey Louis, beautiful pie in the face, man. what hypocrisy and what power he's been wielding for so long with such limited information.
Yeah.
How many people has he probably destroyed careers and never even seen or heard what they put out?
Yeah.
Just hypocrisy, man. Beautiful timing. Incredible.
And you gotta love that he called him a blockhead.
Incredible.
That's
My
what makes me laugh all day.
insult of the day.
He was searching, and he came up with blockhead.
Why, you blockhead? I ought
to make us.
Glad you didn't threaten to give him a knuckle sandwich.
Up your nose with a rubber hose.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
The latest on Louis C.K., we got a Bill Donohue video we should play. He's all pissed off at Louis.
That's what Bill does.
He questions why Louis C.K. has child molestation on his mind.
Shut up.
Yes, he does.
Stupid ass. Who said that?
Bill Donohue. He's in charge of the Catholic League, so he...
Archdiocese?
Should we chat with him?
Yeah, I went to Catholic school. I can't say nothing about him.
Let's try to get him on the phone. Bill Donohue will do our show in a second.
Call him up.
Let's see what this is about. We got the clip of...
I don't think the Catholic League should be the first one coming out.
I know. Why is he a pedophilia on his mind? What is he, joining our organization? Oh, shit.
I think Bill has done a good job with that. I think he certainly attacks the priest.
Yes, he does.
Oh, he weeds him out?
Yeah, he was all in with that.
He's against all that shit. He says it's disgusting. And,
Yeah.
But,
well, what a big man
what's he
is.
saying?
I think Sam pulled the video. That's why.
I pray to St. Anthony that he finds the right way to go. You ever lose something, St. Anthony finds it for you. I lost a boy. Yeah.
Oh, Louis C.K. went at it with Bill Donohue on our show. That pops up on YouTube.
Really?
Yes. You don't have the actual clip?
We don't see it.
Yes.
Sam has it. The Catholic League is not really a league. It's just him and his fucking brother or something, right?
The Catholic League?
Yeah, he calls it. It's just him.
Yeah, it's not really a league of extraordinary gentlemen.
Yeah.
If that's what you're looking for.
All right, here we go.
You wrote a piece, Letterman, and you took Letterman to task, good riddance, basically, and Louis C.K.
Good riddance.
Did on Saturday Night Live. Go ahead.
Well, Louis C.K., I'm glad that he didn't get the warm reception, and I'm glad he didn't get it because he's making fun and making light of child molestation. Well, as I pointed out today to readers, I said 5 years ago, I'm not going to repeat it on the air, but he used the F word to talk about Pope Benedict and children.
Oh, right, boys.
So I'd like to know, why does this man have child rape on his mind, Louis C.K.?
Can I pause and ask one question? The question is, why don't you? If you don't have child rape on your mind, you're not thinking clearly as far as I'm concerned.
It's part of the problem.
I don't like thinking about stuff that bothers me. Yeah, I think about child rape all the time, but when I'm singing and dancing, whatever I'm doing, like, what's going on? I'm like, Dad, someone's being raped. It's a child. That's all I think of. You know what I do when I think about it? I make a funny noise till it goes away. Yeah, and the little kid was, and he was, and he was, he was confused. So then I put a puppy in front of him, and he petted it. I pulled his pants down.
Yesterday he sat down
and then he was, his memories got wiped out.
Oh, shit.
All right, back to Bill Donohue.
As far as Letterman is concerned, I was delighted about one thing. Yesterday he sat down with Jane Pauley and he said, I don't think you can ever hear from me again. I would hope that is in fact the case. We have a whole litany of his anti-Catholic statements, particularly about priests. Again, he gets away with this because the elites tolerate, if not accept, anti-Catholicism. We at the Catholic League have had a problem with some of the cartoons against Islamists, okay, and against the Islamic religion, not just even Islamist. Because I want to try and be fair about this. I'm against bigotry against any particular group. But it seems to me, anytime you have a discussion about bigotry, and that's why I'm disappointed here with the Vatican response, the first thing you have to say is this. If you're going to talk about a Palestinian state, go ahead and do it. Make sure that you recognize Israel before we ask anybody to recognize Palestine.
Right. All right. There he is, the one and only Bill Donohue, ladies and gentlemen. Always great to see you, my friend. Up next, folks, the editor.
That wasn't that was whatever.
That terrible. I mean, that's what he does.
He just sounds like a old dude.
I agree with Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York on all things Catholic. Take your filthy Roman popery. And Benedict was creepy. Who cared if he used the F word to
he had those ruby red.
Oh my God, he was the fucking worst with that ghoulish face, and the fact that it was his watch when all those kids were getting molested, and he was what was he, Cardinal Ratzenberger? Fuck him.
They made him retire. The Popes
step
don't
down.
Retire ever.
Not at all.
You're supposed to die in office.
But somebody said he quit to avoid having to deal with all that pedophile. I bet he did. Maybe he did. You might be right. That documentary, I think, ruined him. Good. I hated him. I like the new guy. Just kind of hangs out, carries his own luggage.
Yes.
The new guy is down to earth. He's salt of the earth, this guy.
The new pope is like, who needs a Bible?
Yeah, the new pope.
Wing it.
The new pope, the new pope looks like the type of guy that would go, that's what you fucking think. But he just looks like a regular dude.
He
I like
takes
the
the
new
bus.
pope. Seems like a nice man.
He does his own laundry.
Genuine guy. The other one loved the pomp and circumstance.
He was too German that last one for me.
He was a fucking creep. I hated him.
Crumbled up little fucking freak.
Let's be
It's
honest.
like they just soft-served old creepy white guy into a pope outfit.
Hey, guys, if you want on line 10 is Bill Donohue.
Mr. Donohue.
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay,
yes,
we got
now
you
we
finally.
can.
I'm sorry about that. We got a new studio we're trying out for the first time today. So,
Okay, no problem.
we're good friends with the Louis C.K. and over the years, you and him have had it out on our radio show. Matter of fact.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth. The time that we had it out, I didn't even know who this bum was.
It's funny. That's exactly what Louis said.
But, now, of course, I know who he is. This guy he makes me want to puke. Let me tell you.
Bill, don't you think sometimes that like I know you're the Catholic League and that's your job and that you feel passionately about it, but don't you think once in a while like Catholicism, like everything else, is fodder for humor? I think you're right about the fact that Islam, the elite don't go after Islam or other ones. I think you make a great point with that. But I think Louis doing whether it's pedophilia jokes or Catholic jokes are totally legit as a performer.
Well, the thing is that we're told over and over again, you don't generalize from the individual to the collective. I could say a lot of things about gays, couldn't I?
I do.
Sure. What? They're delicious.
Sometimes they taste funny.
And AIDS and things of that nature. But you know what? I'm not going to go there, but I'll tell you what. I'm not the comedian. Louis C.K. is not going to make jokes about gays and bathhouses and AIDS.
That's not true.
He does.
That's not true. You don't understand Louis. I'll be really. I've known Louis for a long time. Louis will send me a text, and he said, "AIDS began with your mother." He sent me that text. And I wrote back, and it will end there too. But you're wrong about Louis.
Notice he didn't say anything about gays and bathhouses, though.
But I'm saying he did jokes about gays. I know Louis is not a politically correct guy. He's kind of unpleasant to look at. He's got like a weird head and freckles, and nobody likes him physically. But you are.
I would agree with you on that. But look, there are guys. The bigger phony than him is Marr, because he says he goes after every religion equally. Baloney. He goes after Catholicism every single Friday night. He basically leaves the Muslims alone. Once in a while,
Bill Maher?
No, Bill Maher. Are you kidding me?
That he's even-handed.
The left wing.
Bill Maher goes after Islam a lot.
Yeah, the radical left hates him.
For it.
The radical left really hates Bill Maher now because they feel like he's a hate speaker.
Let me tell you something. He backs off, though. Every Friday night, he's slamming Catholics. He does it every now and then. He takes a shot at Muslims to show that he's equal-handed. All I'm simply saying is, and Letterman is the same thing. It's always my religion is the one. They let Jews get by. They let Muslims get by. Protestants get a pass. Why is it? Forget about the Buddhists. I mean, we don't hear any Buddhist jokes or Hindu jokes. We had that fool congresswoman out in California goes woo 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 like an Indian, and now people are going crazy about that. That's nothing compared to what Louis C.K.
Which Indian, red dot or feather? What Indian are we talking?
But let me ask you a question, Bill, because I used to be like very Christian. Aren't you supposed to be like happy when someone is mocking you? I mean, is that what Christianity teaches us? You're supposed to rejoice when you're being persecuted because it means you're doing the right thing. Like,
yeah, I guess so, but I guess that's where things begin to break down for me. Because if I'm the type of guy. If I go into a bar, I don't look for a fight. If somebody hits me, I don't hit him back once. I hit him back twice. Once to even the score, and the second time to let him know don't ever do it again.
That's me at a strip club. You guys just find me at a strip club.
As Christ commanded us, I guess. I think you're supposed to turn the other cheek. Actually, is the the Christian
thing is, we're a civil rights organization. We don't operate soup kitchens here, okay? Nothing against soup kitchens, but we're a civil rights organization, and all I'm trying to do is have a level playing field. But when I see that there's so many different protected groups in our society, and then it's an open season on Catholics, that's what gets my back up.
And the question I have for you, too, is, I understand the Pope is an important guy in the religion, but, Pope Benedict I found fairly indefensible. I like this new Pope a lot, and I think a lot of people like him, and they feel like he's what a Pope should be. He's a humble man. He's a really good man of the people.
He didn't do too well with the Jews, though, did he, yesterday?
I honestly don't know. He texted me, but I didn't get back to him.
What happened with the Jews?
Yeah, what did he do? Did he stand up and...
He made some kind of a comment to
Did he lowball
Abbas over in Palestine about being an angel.
Oh, yeah, real mercy.
Question about that, and quite frankly, if we're going to recognize Palestine, it would be pretty nice if these people in Palestine first recognize Israel. Wouldn't you think that's a good idea?
Okay,
but Israel's already recognized.
Yeah.
Who's not? Like, that's what some people in Palestine don't recognize. Israel's recognized already. You have a map. You're in the Olympics.
Israel's on there.
You got a flag. You're here. Haiti is less recognized than Israel.
Do you think, Bill, that you have to admit, come on, Benedict was not good for the image. I mean, considering what his position was before he became Pope, he was very damaged. He was more damaging to Catholicism than anything Louis is going to say or anything any dumb comic is going to say.
See, I actually liked him. He's unlike the present Pope. Benedict was a towering intellect, and if you've actually read his stuff, you don't read anything by this Pope because he never wrote anything. He gives interviews with 90-year-old atheists and doesn't have a tape recorder. You've got Benedict, Joseph Ratzinger, who wrote these incredible books and philosophy. I mean, this guy was a towering intellect, as was JP2, John Paul II.
Okay, a smart guy.
He's a bright guy, Francis, but he's no intellectual.
No one is saying. I don't think being the Pope is about being an intellectual.
Not at
I don't
all.
think people look to the head of a spiritual organization. How bright is he, and what's his IQ?
No.
I think when you look at the way what was Ratzenberg is how you say it? The way Ratzinger, sorry, the way he handled the pedophilia scandal when everything wound up at his desk.
He actually cracked down on it more than JP2.
But he didn't do enough, and Kurt raised the point. Kurt's my fiance on the right. He raised the point. No, I'm kidding. He's just a big lumbering, funny bastard. But come on, didn't he resign to escape all that? That's what him leaving was about. It was about what he had done.
I'll tell you the truth. I don't know exactly why he resigned. I think it had more to do with the fact that, as much as I like John Paul II, he looked enfeebled in his last year or so, and I don't think anybody wants to see that happen again. I think he bowed out because he realized he was tiring, and he didn't want to look like his predecessor.
I think that's a very nice way to look at it.
Yeah, it was
accurate.
suspicious, though, because he was the first one that had to retire in how many years?
Right,
600. 600 years, I believe.
600.
Well, listen, this Pope here is 78, and he only has one lung, so we don't know how long he's going to last either.
Why don't they get a younger Pope? How come they don't get a Pope who's like in his early 50s? They don't want one guy to have that much power. It's almost like they want the Pope to be like a quick, like a presidential term almost.
They want to make sure that his dick don't work.
Term limits.
They don't need those headaches.
They kind of want term limits.
John Paul II, Carol Waltia, he was 58 when they chose him back in the late 1970s. So, I mean, it's pretty much like a Supreme Court justice. You're not going to get somebody in their 30s and 40s.
Right.
You're going to get somebody at least in his 50s. That's what they did with JP2, and maybe they should go, younger. That might be a good sign for his successor.
Bill, I got to ask you, because you went after Louis C.K. What do you find funny? What comics do you find funny, or what TV shows or movies?
Fair question.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, to me, the pinnacle of excellence would be somebody like a Mel Brooks, because he does, in fact, hit on everybody equally, and he never goes below the belt.
He just did it 50 years ago.
Wait a minute. I don't know if I agree with that. Because even though he doesn't go below the belt, he still addressed Nazis and racism. I mean, he took on some very tough topics.
That's okay. That's okay, but he never seems to get into the gutter. He doesn't have to be obscene. I mean,
so the black sheriff saying, where the white women at? That was fine for you.
For you.
Where the white women at? So that was good. So that was cool.
That Blazing Saddles was a little rough, a little edgy.
So that was cool with you, where the white women at, for the black sheriff yelling at?
No, what was that one?
That was Blazing
Saddles. Have you ever seen Blazing Saddles?
The top ones.
They said nigger constantly in that movie. And I agree with you. He's a comic genius. But I mean, it's like no matter how good the comic is, there's like that stuff where you look at it and go like, wow, look at the stuff they did that would be considered obscene today.
Yeah.
Is there
Rodney Dangerfield? I think he was hilarious. But
what about Rodney?
Rodney is a rare case.
What about Rodney? What about Rodney in Natural Born Killers when he's raping his daughter?
Yeah. How about that?
That's molestation.
Yeah. Go upstairs and take a bath for daddy.
Natural Born Killer. Who's that guy?
Rodney Dangerfield.
He was in that movie and had a brutal scene.
It was a movie.
All right. Yeah, he doesn't want to play.
All right. We like you, Bill, but I think you're wrong about Louis, and I think that you, I think you gotta lighten up with this with stand-ups.
I got a sense of humor. People make fun of me. They call me names every day. They curse me out and everything else, and that's all good fun. I don't care.
Enough about your marriage.
He laughed.
There you go. Huh?
All right, Bill. All right, Bill. Thank you.
Well, see, you guys can be tough without getting dirty. I mean,
we're pig.
Yeah, you probably will be.
Have you seen my act? I'm a piece of garbage.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, Bill. I got all right, Lou.
He's not shy.
No, I mean, I just think he's.
So I got one question. How come everybody's mad at Louis? No one's mad at SNL. SNL let it on the air. You know what I mean?
Because they knew Louis wrote it. They knew it was Louis' shit.
But George Carlin would have done. He would have done a monologue like that, and I don't know if people would have gone as crazy. Would they have?
I don't know. That's kind of
There's some things you don't joke about.
I just haven't discovered those things yet.
But that's one of the things where if you listen to what he's saying in the joke, this is what it is, people don't fucking
People don't listen.
They don't listen to the joke. They just hear child molestation.
Buzzwords, and they lose their fucking mind.
Right, so they're not listening to the actual... In fact, while he was telling the fucking joke, he had to keep reiterating what the point of the joke was.
Exactly.
He realized
people don't follow along.
He realized people were going to freak the fuck out over his material. So that's why he was slowing everyone down. Like, what, he was acknowledging it as he was doing it.
The time is right for a nice Charlie Callis comedy.
I totally agree. Something fun and free.
Yeah, audiences are yearning for We
gotta get Kurt's mic right. Kurt,
I can't do my Charlie Callis.
It does sound a little loud, a
little echoey over there.
A little bit.
All right.
Everybody need to relax, though. It was,
Mel Brooks doesn't go below the belt. What was he talking about?
Mel Brooks also ain't do comedy.
Stand-up. He did stand-up, yeah.
Yeah, but he had non-stop fucking
Blazing Saddles is all you have to know with that one.
But people remember what they remember it how they want to remember it. Like, back in my day, we had this that was so good. It was like it was more offensive then than it was now. It was offensive shit, but who cares? Keep it moving. You gotta keep it moving. Gotta keep it moving.
All right, we're gonna break so we can fix Kurt's microphone. We got Kurt. Metzger
I would hate to
Sherrod Small.
I would hate to tell this dude about like Lil Wayne and shit like that.
Oh God, it would blow his mind.
He would just kill himself. All right.
Come see my new material. It's pretty much an hour of new material.
Hey, how did Uncle Paul feel about that, Louis C.K.?
I thought it was in very poor taste. You always got to go for the low-hanging fruit. Very unnecessary to start picking on people's preferences, picking on what people like.
Are you a Catholic, Uncle Paul?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Who was your favorite pope?
I like all of them, especially this last one. I thought he was good. He had the little red shoes. He was so classy. Yeah, he likes to watch him up there doing that little... What's that thing where they all hang from the ropes and do it? I shouldn't be asking Sherrod that. What's the... It's like in Vegas they do it.
What?
I don't remember the performers. I don't know.
Oh, Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah, that type of thing. Okay. The Pope was watching them young men do that.
Oh, okay.
With shirts on. Yeah.
Listening.
Oh, boy, it's worth the risk, though. God damn it, that Louis really hit the nail on the head. Sure is. You don't think it's gonna be. I tell you, though, when you're cleaning yourself off and you still got Johnson's baby shampoo on your fingers, oh, boy, you realize it was all worth it.